Chapter 142, Masha Territory. Beyond everyone's expectations, Yishuan actually became the chief seed disciple, and the news quickly spread throughout Yiyuan school. Yishuan broke all records. It could be said that before, Yi Zaiwen's record was at the same level as that of Qi Fifan, but now, a new disciple like Yishuan had become chief seed disciple. This news suddenly engulfed the entire Yiyuan school. One must know that in the past, a new disciple was able to break into the ranks of seed disciples, and later, he was able to become a true disciple, although he fell from glory midway, but before he fell, he used to a temporary magnificent existence. Moreover, Yishuan had broken all previous records and made new records. The status of chief seed disciple was equivalent to being the strongest of all the inner disciples, and along with this title, his reputation had been completely established in Yiyuan school. In addition to this, no one knew who actually spread the rumor, but the rumor about contradiction between Yishuan and Luo Yifan suddenly spread like forest fire in the entire Yiyuan school. According to the rumor, reportedly, Luo Yifan suspected that someone related to him had been killed by Yishuan, but Yishuan did not admit his crime, so Luo Yifan was planning to kill Yishuan because he didn't want to mistakenly let the real culprit escape. In a short while, the whole main sect was in uproar, and Yi Zaiwen's fame had completely erupted throughout the sect, and not just that, his performance had also left deep impression on true disciples and elders. And during this time, Qianyu faction also showed a huge development. However, there were still many people who were considering the contradiction between Yishuan and Luo Yifan as a bad omen for Qianyu faction's future. Although Yishuan was very formidable and would most likely enter into the ranks of top-level true disciples, but that was a thing in the future, and the reality was that at present, he was going to face the potential retaliation from Luo Yifan, which made a lot of people to suspect the future prospects of Qianyu faction. However, there were still a lot of people who were willing to give it a try and join Qianyu faction, because there was huge possibility that they might enjoy the future magnificence and benefit a lot from Yi Zaiwen's future glory. Regarding the matters of Qianyu faction, Yishuan was still not willing to manage anything, so Yifeng and Yan Qiliang were made responsible for managing Qianyu faction. As the chief seed disciple of this year's seed disciple competition, Yishuan received the rewards from the hands of a sect elder. He received a total of over 50,000 spirit stones, and it could be said that this year, Yiyuan school was really willing to bleed money to cultivate these seed disciples, because in the previous seed disciple competition, the seed disciples didn't even receive 1/10 of the current amount. And sect was willing to be so generous in order to help the disciples to resist against the followers of Bai Majiao. Of course, there were a lot of people who had greedy and envious looks in their eyes when they saw He Dan being rewarded to the top 3 seed disciples. As chief seed disciple, Yishuan received 3 He Dan, the second-ranked seed disciple, Nangong Wang, received 2 He Dan, and the third-ranked seed disciple received only 1. Since He Dan's main function was to slightly increase the chances of successfully breaking through from the Xiantian 5th stage, however it didn't guarantee a successful breakthrough, so sect would reward several He Dan to the winners. After all of the seed disciples received their respective rewards from the sect, Yishuan and other seed disciples tidied up and went towards a small dimension, located in the depths of Yiyuan school. This small world was called Masha Territory, and inside it, there were countless devils in captivity, and also had a long history of countless years. This Masha territory was just like the Huanma territory, and in both these territories, Yiyuan school had kept a large number of devils as captives. However, the type of devils found in Masha territory was completely different from Huanma territory. It was said that a long time ago, a great devil development was carried out in Devil World, but it invoked a great disaster, and a huge crack opened up in the space, which disrupted the space into many fragments, and this Masha territory was only one of the fragments. Later, the founder of Yiyuan school used his magical powers to pull over this Masha territory from the chaos. Inside the Masha territory, devils gradually took birth and also developed their own heritage. They were very tough to deal with, and there were several devils who had already stepped into the truth realm. Generally speaking, Masha territory was opened up only for true disciples. However, this time, it was being opened for the seed disciples, so that they could practice and hone their skills in order to prepare themselves for the conference among the 4 large sects and the imperial clan, which was only a month away. In addition to these inner seed disciples, some of the seed disciples among the core disciples were also going to enter Masha territory, and even some true disciples had also been allowed to enter, in order to train themselves for the upcoming conference. All of this was for the conference which was going to take place near East China Sea after a month. Standing outside the Masha territory, there was a huge stone gate and a blockade enchantment to separate Yuan School and Masha territory, and outside the enchantment stood 10 Yuan School's elders, and although there were few ordinary-looking elders present in front of a lot of disciples, but no one dared to underestimate these people, because these elders were all super experts. And even if there were a lot of truth-level devils inside the Masha territory, Yuan School had only dispatched few elders to guard the gate. These inner seed disciples had arrived at the entrance of Masha territory under the leadership of these elders, otherwise they couldn't possibly find this place. After everyone seemed prepared, one of the 10 elders suddenly said, "You may want to think properly before you advance. In the Masha territory, there are a lot of dangers. If you are inattentive then will surely die. All of you are outstanding inner disciples and can surely step into the ranks of core disciples in the future, and some of you even have the opportunity to become true disciples. So if you died here then it would all be in vain. If you want to quit, now is your chance." After his speech was complete, the elder glanced at these disciples, and when he saw that no one was going to quit, he didn't say anything and immediately used spirit technique towards the huge enchantment, which then opened with a loud bang and waves of machi immediately blew out from inside the Masha territory, along with a vast breath that also bubbled out from inside and gave a cold and gloomy feeling to everyone standing outside. Everyone was determined and no one withdrew. All of the 100 seed disciples entered the Masha territory. Looking at the departing figures of these disciples, one of the 10 gatekeeper elders sighed and said, 100 elites entered, I really do not know how many will come out alive after a month from now. So long as at least one useful disciple comes out, our work will not go in vain this time. Another elder said, at present, Bai Mojiao's movements are getting bigger and bigger, simply menacing, and in that case, we simply do not have time to allow these disciples to mature slowly. As long as one of them becomes a true disciple, the sacrifices of others are worth it. This was the law of the jungle which only favored the strong. From the total 2 billion people selected by Yuan School, in the eyes of an average person, these few disciples were truly the cream bunch and rare geniuses. However, for a major sect like Yuan School, they were actually like leeks. When one wave was cut, another wave would grow again, and this could go for an endless span of time. Becoming a true disciple was very difficult, but once achieved, even the worth of 10,000 inner disciples was nothing in comparison. So among these 100 people, as long as one person managed to reap benefits from this training and became a true disciple, then even if other people perished, this was still worth it. The reality was very cruel and everyone knew that among these seed disciples, there might be only one person who would stand out and everybody else would be nothing but stepping stones, but they all felt that they would be the one to succeed, and no one thought that they could end up being the stepping stones. Soon, Yishuan entered the Masha territory, but he did not choose to go together with others, but went his own way. This Masha territory was similar to the Huanma territory. There was desolate scene spread almost everywhere, and looked similar to a bleak picture, hellfire raging in all directions. The sky was gray in color while there was no day, no night, and no seasons as well. This was truly the devil's environment, and as far as humans were concerned, even the warriors would feel very uncomfortable here, let alone ordinary people, and there was simply no way to survive in such an environment. So the devils born in Devil World were especially formidable in order to survive in such a harsh environment, but they also yearned for a good environment like the fine and soothing human habitat, just like the environment in Zhenwujie. So for innumerable years, they would always think of ways to invade, and this was the root cause of innumerable years of war between Devil World and Zhenwujie. Devil race did not put human race on the same level and thought that human race did not deserve to enjoy such a good environment. This was their main objective for so many years, which slowly turned into conflict, then gave birth to a deep hatred, and finally, they became sworn enemies. Yimo was sitting on Yizaiwen's shoulder. It was small and had a little weight. Yimo took a deep breath and absorbed the machi present in Masha territory and immediately felt refreshed. Although it was not a devil, but should also be regarded as a devil spirit, and he didn't differentiate between Lingqi and Maqi and could absorb both, however still preferred to absorb Maqi. Yi Shiwen, I think that Luo Yifan will not let you off so easily, he will soon plan something against you. Yi Mo said. Well, I know. Yi Shiwen nodded. It is because of this that even if I know that Masha territory is a dangerous place, but I still didn't go together with other disciples, because who knows how many of them turn out to be the spies of Luo Yifan. Yi Shiwen said because he doubted that there were Luo Yifan spies among the seed disciples who entered the Masha territory and some of them might disclose information about him to Luo Yifan. It was very dangerous to stay with them, so he decided to move on his own, because that way, he would be relatively safer. Although, Yi Shiwen was also scheming how to kill Luo Yifan, but he was clearly aware of the fact that his own strength was still too lacking compared to the formidable strength of Luo Yifan. They simply weren't in the same realm, so before he would actually become capable enough to kill Luo Yifan, he must be careful till then, because if he wasn't careful enough, then the one to die would actually be him. Before he gained enough strength, he must take all his steps carefully, without being negligent. Now you can practice without any worries, because it just so happens that this place is dangerous for others, but for you, it is a very good place to practice. Yi Mo said. How can you say that? Yi Shiwen asked. For others, those devils are very dangerous, but that is just for others, for you, those devils are simply nothing. Yi Mo said, Tianyuan mirror is the spiritual tool of the great devil king itself, and for those devil, it is a natural adversary, so as long as you have Tianyuan mirror, you're the next sovereign king of the devil race. Chapter 143, Azura, for others, those devils are very dangerous, but that is just for others, for you, those devils are simply nothing. Yi Mo said, Tianyuan mirror is the spiritual tool of the great devil king itself, and for those devil, it is a natural adversary, so as long as you have Tianyuan mirror, you're the next sovereign king of the devil race. Yi Shiwen suddenly remembered, at that time near the blood pool, he saw how those devils were prostrating themselves simply like slaves in front of Yi Mo. He had also started to somewhat believe that the previous master of Yi Mo, about whom it always talked, was really the great devil king and these devils were actually his slaves. But these devils have been isolated for so long in this small dimension, they will not recognize the Tianyuan mirror. Yi Shiwen said because the devils in Masha territory were different from the devils of Devil World because they had been held captive in Masha territory for a long time, secluded, without any contact with the outside world. It doesn't matter if they do not recognize, Tianyuan mirror still has a restraining effect on them. Yi Mo said. You are the master of Tianyuan mirror, the next sovereign king of devil race, they are your slaves. Yi Mo said. Regarding the slave thing just mentioned by Yi Mo, Yi Shiwen did not care because the important thing was strength, even if what Yi Mo said was true and its former master was the great devil king, but he must have been able to become sovereign of devils not just by relying on Tianyuan mirror, rather by using his own formidable strength. If he was not strong and wanted to receive the devil race as his slaves, then won't he simply be courting death? However, there was one thing that Yi Shiwen could say for certain, that the Tianyuan mirror should have great restraining effect on the devils. Yi Shiwen did not stop and dashed all the way toward the depths of Masha territory. Above a piece of land in the depths of Masha territory, Yi Shiwen was surrounded by more than a dozen devils of Azura race, and the strength of each of these Azura devil was above Xiantian's 6th stage, which was quite terrifying. Azura race was an influential clan of devil race, quite extraordinary, and was considered more formidable and fiercer compared to the demon race. These Azura devils were strangely smiling and advancing towards Yi Shiwen. These are Azura devils and belong to the Azura clan of devil race, but still belong to the bottom class of slaves. The real aristocracy class of great Azura clan takes birth as truth level masters. Yi Mo explained and introduced Azura clan to Yi Shiwen while still sitting on his shoulder. Yi Shiwen secretly sighed while listening to the explanation of Yi Mo. Azura devils took birth as truth-level masters. The might of this clan really went against the heaven's will. In the devil world, there are 8 great royal clans and Azura clan is also one of them, a truly formidable clan. The founder of Azura clan had a huge body and was simply invincible and a universally matchless Azura devil, who had also become the sovereign of Devil World, therefore these Azura devils are so powerful and fierce. Yi-Mo informed about the secrets of the devil race to Yi-Xuan. Yi-Xuan continued to listen to the commentary of Yi-Mo, while he kept on shooting his palms and sweeping terrifying strong astral winds to constantly resist the attack of these Azura devils. An Azura rushed over, condensed his both hands into fists, and in a flash, his fist shot toward Yi-Xuan with a boom. It was an extremely clever fist technique and was called Azura Fist. It was said that relying on the peerless might of Azura Fist, the founder of Azura clan was considered invincible in the Devil World, but at this time, the Azura Fist technique of these Azura devils wasn't concise and didn't contain the true essence of original Azura Fist, created by the founder of Azura clan, and although their Azura Fist technique had no essence, but it could still be regarded as a superior fist technique and its prowess was enormous. It was said the bodies of devils of Azura race were simply unparalleled and among all the devil clans in Devil World, they possessed the most tyrannical bodies, second to none, peerless and invincible. They believed that their bodies was the most invincible among all the devils of devil race, and between heaven and earth, no one should be able to take on their double fists. Yi-Xuan didn't have the slightest fear and immediately stepped forward, spread out his palms, and used Coiling Dragon Palm, Hidden Dragon rises from the abyss, his both hands transformed into dragon claws, then instantly rushed forward. Bang! 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 The fist and palm collided and produced bang-bang metal collision sound. Roar! The Azura devil screamed pitifully. Both of its arms softened and drooped, were directly broken off by Yi-Xuan in one shot. Although it was correct that Azura devils possessed unparalleled bodies, and were really very fierce, but Yi-Xuan had also practiced tyrant body technique and the might granted by this technique was unparalleled as well. Yi-Mo had inadvertently said that this power technique was quite fierce and its might was terrifying, and must have been used by mighty tyrants in the ancient ages of Zhen Wujie. The body of an Azura devil was truly tyrannical but it should not be a match for Yi-Xuan, who had practiced tyrant body technique. These Azura devils were simply not the opponents of Yi-Xuan unless a great Azura devil was to appear. However, many years had passed and no such Azura appeared. Yi-Xuan wanted to ask several questions but it didn't seem like Yi-Mo was in a mood to answer so he didn't continue to ask. Yi-Xuan shot his palm and a dragon claw loomed in front of him. Bang! An Azura devil screams pitifully and was shot dead by Yi-Xuan's tyrannical palm, however right then, Tianyuan mirror instantly released intermittent bloody red waves of light and the Jingqi of that Azura devil's body was instantly absorbed by this bloody red light, then it gradually transformed into the most refined form of Jingqi, and without carrying any devil attributes, it emerged inside Yi-Xuan's body and was directly absorbed by him. Yi-Xuan only felt that his skill suddenly deepened 1 point, and a delighted expression immediately appeared on his face and said, I did not think that this Tianyuan mirror would really be this effective, but there won't be any after effects of this, right? Of course not, this is the tool of Great Devil King. Do you think that it is similar to the Modeo-based power techniques used by those inferior devils that it will have after effects? Yi-Mo said in a somewhat annoyed manner. Yi-Xuan nodded because he also felt that it didn't seem like anything was wrong with the influx of refined Jingqi emerging inside his body, instead, it was purer and more polished than his own Jingqi essence. Yi-Xuan was suddenly overjoyed and directly rushed into the group of Azura devil to kill them all. Bang! 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 The Quanjin of those Azura devils fiercely boomed into the body of Yi-Xuan, but he instantly mustered endless Zhen Yuan around his body, which completely roused his clothes. These Quanjin were instantly blocked off by the cover of Zhen Yuan around his body and did not cause even a tiny bit of injury to his body. Yi-Xuan didn't even take out his long blade, and to completely kill them off, he directly displayed the great might of Coiling Dragon Palm, but he didn't jump in the group of Azura devils, rather he unceasingly shot his palms from far, and each of his palm would explode the air, and in a flash, the surrounding area in a radius of 1 li was completely ravaged by the fierce palm winds created by Yi-Xuan's palm attacks. Slowly, Yi Shiwen did not just stick to his palm method, he also used Chinese boxing, blade skills. In short, he started using all kinds of martial arts technique, as if they were on his fingertips, and he used them instantly so long as using one seemed appropriate. Boom! Yi Shiwen finally used rushing thunder hand, lighting, and thunder, and gave the final blow, which completely annihilated all of the Azura devils in the group, and all of their Jingqi were instantly transformed by Tianyuan mirror and absorbed by Yi Shiwen. Yi Shiwen thought that if he continued this way, then he was not far from having a breakthrough into the Xiantian 5th stage, and at that time, his fighting strength would also have a significant breakthrough and would become directly comparable to the fighting strength of the masters of Xiantian 7th stage. Then, he would be able to break into the Xiantian 6th stage at the fastest speed. Although, it was said that breaking through from Xiantian 5th stage into the Xiantian 6th stage was considered one of the biggest barriers for masters of Xiantian realm, and most of the warriors couldn't cross this threshold because the biggest hurdle they faced was transformation of Xiantian Jin Qi to Jin Yuan. However, Yi Shiwen had already finished this step in advance, so he could easily break into the realm of Xiantian 6th stage, and perhaps, this would be the simplest breakthrough for him. By that time, his fighting strength would increase so much that he would be able to contend with the masters of Xiantian 7th stage, and at that time, it could be said for certain that Yi Shiwen would have sufficient strength to protect himself. As long as Luo Yifan didn't personally come into action, Yi Shiwen would have enough strength to protect himself, and even think about anti-kill. Ha, Yi Shiwen, go on like this and you'll soon be able to have a breakthrough. It's not too far from you and shouldn't take too long. Yi Mo laughed and said, but if you are aiming for a quicker breakthrough, killing these Xiantian 6th stage Azura devils is not enough. You should find the formidable ones, Xiantian 7th stage, 8th stage and even Xiantian 9th stage devils, then behead them, capture their Jingqi, and you will see your cultivation growing by leaps and bounds. This is really not a problem? Yi Shiwen asked. Rest assured, because the Tianyuan mirror can completely suppress them. Yi Mo said. As long as you are getting help from Tianyuan mirror, those devils are nothing in front of you, and follow my advice and you will be able to save countless years of penance to reach the truth realm. As long as you are willing to go the devil world, soon, you'll be able to break into a previously unimaginable realm, and you will also become the next sovereign king of devil world. I should go to the devil world and become a devil king. Yi Shiwen shook his head and said, maybe in the future I will have a trip to the devil world, but definitely not now, and absolutely not to become some devil. Regarding the proposal of Yi Mo about him becoming the sovereign king of devil world, Yi Shiwen didn't have the slightest interest, but regarding the other proposal of killing Xiantian 7th, 8th, and 9th stage devils, Yi Shiwen was very much interested. There was a difference of heaven and earth between Xiantian 6th stage devils and formidable devils of Xiantian 7th stage, 8th stage and 9th stage. In fact, in the Xiantian realm, there was huge strength difference between each of the stages. If he could kill higher level devils, then his speed of practice would naturally rise skyrocketing. Come on, we should look for some higher level devils. Yi Shiwen said. No problem, listen to me, Tianyuan mirror can feel the presence of all of the devils, it can even perceive their strength levels, so you don't need to worry about finding them. Yi Mo said in a confidence tone. While chatting like this with Yi Mo, Yi Shiwen rushed towards the depths of Masha territory. Chapter 144, The legendary Hell. Masha territory was a dangerous place, with countless dangers, but as far as Yi Shiwen was concerned, it actually did not matter because by virtue of the power of Tianyuan mirror, as long as Yi Shiwen didn't encounter truth-level devils, all other devils would have to face the restraining effect of Tianyuan mirror, then it would be easy for Yi Shiwen to behead them. Along with a large number of Xiantian 7th stage devils, a lot of formidable devils of Xiantian 8th stage devils were also killed by Yi Shiwen. Then with the help of Tianyuan mirror, he absorbed their Jingqi and finally reached the peak saturation point of Xiantian 4th stage. Now, he was almost going to break through to the Xiantian 5th stage. Bang! Yi Zaiwen's fist rumbled and with a bang, an Azura devil at the Xiantian's 7th stage was blasted to smithereens. However, just before his death, there was an incredible look in his eyes, and it seemed as if he couldn't accept that he was going to die like this. After all, he was an Azura of the Xiantian's 7th stage and was still going to be killed by a human like Yi Shiwen who was merely at the peak of Xiantian 4th stage. It was simply a great insult and shameful. Suddenly, a terrifying Quan Jin dropped down from the sky and blasted towards Yi Shiwen. This fist attack was quite overbearing and strange, as if it was an attack from a flying immortal in the sky and instantly approached Yi Shiwen, without giving any warning. Yi Shiwen was simply too late to dodge and suffered this fist attack. Pooh! Yi Shiwen spouted blood and looked up but saw nothing but void, and then suddenly, the figure of an Azura gradually took shape in midair. It was a young Azura devil, and like other Azura devils, he looked quite ugly, but unlike others that Yi Shiwen had seen and beheaded so far, this one possessed nobility, and just from a glance, Yi Shiwen understood that this young Azura devil belonged to the noble class of Azura clan. Yi Shiwen felt a bit uncomfortable when he sensed the breath of this young Azura devil, because until now, he never felt such a formidable breath from an Azura, and even the Azura devil of Xiantian 8th stage, with whom Yi Shiwen had to struggle a bit, few days ago, was not a match for this young Azura. This young Azura devil's cultivation was not very high, but his strength was certainly very high, and even if he had not yet entered into the Xiantian 9th stage, but perhaps was also not far away from attaining it. Fallen, the Azura have really fallen. Yi Mo appeared on the top of Yi Zaiwen's shoulder and said, although Azura race and Great Azura race are quite similar, but the two sides never allowed interracial marriages since the ancient times. Azura are considered as ordinary civilians, but the Great Azura are actually counted among the nobility in the devil world. The rules of Azura clan strictly prohibit interracial marriages between members of Azura clan and Great Azura clan, and there has been no example of such for thousands of years, but who would have thought that one would actually appear here? You mean he is a hybrid? Yi Shiwen said. Yes, the Azura blood seems to run quite strongly in his body. He should be second generation of hybrid Azura race. Yi Mo said, it is quite impossible for most Azura devils to possess nobility, and that's why they have been slaves of Great Azura clan for generations after generations. Also, a Great Azura devil child is already in the truth realm from birth, however that is not the case with the hybrids of the two races, so it's good news for you that this young Azura is not a genuine Great Azura, otherwise, you will die miserably. Human, I am paying attention to you for a long time. That young Azura said. He couldn't sense the presence of Yi Mo, because if Yi Mo desired then only Yi Shiwen could see it while others couldn't. The young Azura devil grasped his hand and grabbed a stick from the void. This stick's whole body was black in color and was actually the legendary Azura stick. Generally Azura devils used their own bodies as weapons, but there were also others who did not like to use their own bodies as weapons and preferred to use Azura stick, which was a giant mighty weapon, and once brandished, it could cause the heavens to fall and ground to rend. You insolent human, actually dared to strike the people of this young lord's territory. Today you will have to wash away your sins with your own blood. The young Azura devil said in a loud voice. I see that you are a strong master, so if you commit suicide then I'll leave your entire corpse intact and won't feed it to those lowly demon beasts. You think you are capable enough to force me to commit suicide? A smile appeared on Yi Zaiwen's face. You are just a hybrid. In his previous life, interracial breeding was very popular on Earth, but that was not the case here, because in Zhen Wujia, the act of interracial breeding and giving birth to hybrids often meant tragedy. The general thought process in this world didn't accept it, because according to the people of this world, pure blood meant more strength and purity. Human, you are courting death. I will extract your spirit and bake it in fire till you are frightened out of your wits. The young Azura devil finally could not maintain his calm because Yi Shiwen had poked his sore spot. Right after hearing the words of Yi Shiwen, immediately, a fierce and grim look appeared on his face and he shouted crazily. He would never be able to forget the pain of being a hybrid, and because this stain will forever stay on his existence, although thanks to being a hybrid, he received more strength compared to other Azura devils, but at the same time, his strength was far worse than the genuine Great Azura clan. In fact, His current strength was even less than the newborn babies of Great Azura clan, and this inferiority complex had deeply rooted itself in his heart, causing him to possess very low self-esteem. The young Azura obviously hated Yi Shiwen from the depth of his heart, otherwise he would never have said such words, because torturing the opposite party was several folds worse and brutal compared to killing them. He would not talk about torturing Yi Shiwen if he didn't bear a bitter hatred for him. You humans are really nasty and hateful. You actually treat our Azura clan as test subjects in this small dimension, and do you think that our Azura clan doesn't know how to fight back? My father has already taken command of the Azura clan, and under his leadership, we will completely annihilate you abominable human beings. We have also united the other devil clans, and together, we will defeat you humans and make this small world dominate your world. The young Azura sneered again and again, but first, I'll kill you and gain merit, after that, I will command a side army in the future. Although the founder of Yi Yuan School had captured Masha territory, but he had not destroyed the devils still living in this small world, rather he decided to use these devils as test subjects to give battle experience to his disciples. However, since then, the devil race of this small world had constantly tried to counterattack on Zhenwu Jia, while using Yi Yuan School as a springboard to dominate the whole world. Even though you are nothing but a waste, your courage is quite impressive. Yi Shiwen said, but you must know that you have been held captives in this small world by the founder of our Yi Yuan School. In order to give experience to the disciples of Yi Yuan School, you are no different than a pig, ready to be slaughtered anytime, but you still want to counterattack? You are really courting death. It's you who is courting death. The young Azura devil suddenly got furious, because Yi Zaiwen's attitude suddenly and thoroughly angered him. The black giant stick danced in his hand, while the entire space began to fluctuate, producing a wild and loud shrieking sound. This Azura stick was also called Morning Staff, and according to the rumors, under the 9 layers of Netherland, there was Fengdu Hell, and after a human died, his soul entered the hell to face the trial for his sins, while the messengers of legendary hell used Morning Staff to punish them. It was said that the so-called Azura stick was actually an imitation of Morning Staff itself, though the source of this rumor was quite remote in the past. When Yi Mo had described about Azura race to Yi Shiwen, it had also mentioned about this horrifying legend to him. The legend of hell was same in all worlds, maybe some hearsays were slightly different, but roughly the same. In Yi Zaiwen's previous life on the earth, he had also heard about the legendary hell on earth, and even in Zhenwu Jia, there was also a legend of hell. However, the legends would always be legends. No one knew whether the legendary hell actually existed or not. After all, even the formidable emperor-ranked figures could not reverse death to come back and confirm the existence of the legendary hell. According to what Yi Mo informed Yi Shiwen, throughout the entire heaven and earth, the god was responsible for governing the world of the living, and Yama, king of hell, was in charge of governing the world of the dead. However, this was just a hearsay that seemed to have spread countless years ago, and even after so many years had already passed, it still seemed to spread. Even the previous master of Yi Mo was never able to confirm the existence of the legendary hell. He had rummaged through numerous books and shuttled back and forth through many worlds, but still couldn't discover the existence of hell, as if it existed only in legends. When Yi Shiwen heard about this, he almost felt intimidated from this previous master of Yi Mo. The legendary Devil King was definitely a madman. He actually wanted to lead an expedition from Devil World to the legendary Hell, in order to include Hell under the control of Devil World. This Devil King was absolutely a lunatic. He was confident of his own strength to the point of thinking that he was invincible, and actually led an expedition to 10,000 worlds, because rather than being the sovereign king of Devil World, he wanted to become the ruler of 10,000 worlds, in order to become the most distinguished in under the sun. Regarding the Azura stick of Azura clan, it was said that many years ago, the founder of Azura clan once fought with a supreme master in hell, and the battle was disastrous, and after the battle was over, the founder of Azura clan used the other party's morning staff as a basis to create an Azura stick and made it more suitable for Azura clan. This Azura stick was the only kind of weapon used by Azura clan, who were famous for using their invincible bodies as weapons. According to Yi Mo, when the Azura Devil King fought with that Supreme Master, he suffered a loss just because he was using his own great Azura body as weapon, so he decided to imitate the morning staff and created an Azura stick. Although it was only an imitation, but these things happened so long ago that no one could guess their origin, and except Emo, an old monster-type extraordinary character, no one knew about this secret. To the present, even the devils of Azura race thought that Azura's stick was actually an invention of their own ancestors and had been passed down to them generation after generation. Under the influence of Azura's stick, suddenly, the world changed its color, and also produced a shrieking and wild howling sound, which seemed very sad and shrill, enough to scare a timid person to death. Azura's stick was struck horizontally and instantly rushed in front of Yishuan, and it seemed as if it would pound on his head and burst his brains. Moreover, the most frightening thing was that Yishuan actually felt as if his own body was being suppressed, and it was like his soul was being sucked out of his. The morning staff was used by the messengers of hell themselves, and its functions were to call the soul of deceased and manage these souls in hell. Even the great Azura Devil King was unable to escape from the frightening effects of Morning Staff, while Azura's stick was an imitation of Morning Staff itself, so it naturally had the properties of Morning Staff. Chapter 145, Successive Breakthroughs. At that moment, Yishuan had a feeling that his soul was being sucked out of his body, which completely left him in a trace-like state, but in a flash, Azura's stick suddenly arrived in front of him, and if it was plugged directly into his head, then his brains would definitely burst out. The strength of a master at the peak Xiantian 8th stage completely released out and created ripples in the space. Then, suddenly, the intermittent waves of fluctuating blood-red light instantly released out of the Tianyuan mirror inside the body of Yishuan. The might of these scarlet fluctuating light waves was just like that of an emperor, which immediately made that young Azura devil to have an impulse to prostrate on the ground, and this feeling deeply immersed in its bones, it a feeling to prostrate in front of the ruler of 10,000 worlds, making him realize that he was actually a slave, looking at its master, and this feeling caused an unusual discomfort in his heart. The young Azura devil actually hesitated for a moment. After all, he was of noble descent of Azura clan, one of 8 royal clans of Devil World, then how could he have such a humiliating feeling of being a slave, and this feeling had also permeated deep in his bone marrow. He was confused, just what was happening to him. Taking advantage of this time, Yishuan recovered and instantly pulled out a long blade, then fiercely chopped out towards the young Azura. Boom! A terrifying blast wave instantly spread and engulfed the surrounding area, while at this time, Yishuan continually retreated a few steps. A cruel expression appeared on the face of that Azura as he took advantage of this opportunity to attack Yishuan. Stop, you lowly hybrid Azura, don't tell me you actually think of attacking the great Devil King and ruler of 10,000 worlds? And this time, Emo suddenly appeared and shouted loudly, which immediately shook the spirit of that Azura devil, and forced him to kneel down on the ground, because he felt that he was not eligible to stand in front of such a great figure. Taking advantage of the pause of that Azura devil, Yishuan regrouped the Jin Yuan to prepare for his next attack, and once again chopped out a terrifying blade light towards the Azura devil. The blade light severely struck into the huge body of the Azura devil, and since his body was also pressed down by the blood-red light, so he did not have the means to display his full strength. This made him confused and abnormally aggrieved, because looking at his own strength, he knew that he possessed strength close to the masters of Xiantian 9th stage, but now, he could only display the strength of below Xiantian 7th stage, and this was all because of this damn human. This was actually a spiritual shackle, a very horrifying spiritual coercion. He had heard about some of the mythical figures in the legends of his clan, and this coercion could be achieved by anyone regardless of the race, which was quite bizarre because it required for the person to achieve a certain level, and he was just unable to think that a human was able to reach this level and was also using spiritual shackle on him. So now, the young Azura knew perfectly well that this human was very frightening and relying just on his own strength, he did not stand a chance against him. The young Azura devil tried his best to resist, but in a flash, the terrifying peerless might ruptured in his body. Pooh! The young Azura suddenly spouted a mouthful of blood and then suddenly rushed all the way back to escape from the attacks of Yishuan. Hidden dragon rises from the abyss. Immediately, Yishuan shot his palm and a coiling dragon instantly congealed, roared loudly, and the whole atmosphere slightly changed under the imposing noble aura of this dragon, while its long body disappeared into a streamer and instantly rushed towards the young Azura devil. Smack! The young Azura firmly kept his one foot on the ground and stood firmly while his Azura stick was instantly knocked down. Boom! The entire space vibrated and intense energy shock waves instantly spread in the surrounding area. The huge body of Azura Devil instantly flew upside down and he spouted mouthful of blood. He was cursing this human in his heart and was very much aggrieved. After all, he was obviously much stronger than this human but was still completely suppressed by him to death. This feeling really made him quite depressed. He was at the peak of Xiantian 8th stage and was only a small step away from entering into the Xiantian 9th stage, and after that, he could become a major Azura existence, but he was still unable to defeat a mere human. He just couldn't accept this. The young Azura Devil was very unwilling, but Yishuan's offensives continued to rumble in his body and he almost could not resist this time, because his body was suppressed by a terrifying coercion and he could hardly resist. It seemed like today, he encountered his natural predator. It was just like meeting his life's owner. At last, he could no longer resist and was directly split in half by Yizaiwen's long blade, and the Jingqi continuously transferred from his whole body into the body of Yishuan, and at this point, Yishuan felt that his own inner state barrier had finally begun to loosen up. Yishuan sat on the ground and began to prepare for a breakthrough. This was going to be a very important breakthrough for him. The Jingqi of a master at the peak of Xiantian 8th stage was very huge and was also enough to support Yishuan in having a complete breakthrough. At this time, above Yizaiwen's head, the Tianyuan mirror started spinning around and the blood-red light released from its surface formed a red curtain of light around Yizaiwen's body in order to protect him while he was having the breakthrough. Yishuan felt that the Zhen Yuan began to roll and boil up within his body, and the enormous strength of these forces, boiling up inside his body, caused his hair to fly upwards, while his own vitality surged up along with his inner strength. Only in a moment, his breath instantly had a breakthrough, and under the driving force of Zhen Yuan, the inner realm of Yizaiwen's cultivation finally collapsed, and he finally stepped from Xiantian 4th stage straight into the Xiantian 5th stage. However, there was not the slightest sign of exhaustion of Jingqi in Yizaiwen's body. The Jingqi of a master at the peak of Xiantian 8th stage was very large in amount and truly vigorous, and it not only helped him in having a breakthrough from Xiantian 4th stage to 5th stage, it also continued to push him towards the peak of the Xiantian 5th stage. Under the nourishment of this massive Jingqi, soon, Yishuan successfully and smoothly reached the peak of Xiantian 5th stage. But, after breaking through to the peak of Xiantian 5th stage, Yishuan did not stop and immediately took out a Hehe Dan and swallowed it down. The essence of Hehe Dan surged out from the drug and started flowing into his limbs and bones, allowing his inner realm, which seemed to have consolidated a moment ago, to have signs of yet another breakthrough. As far as the biggest obstacle between Xiantian 5th stage and Xiantian 6th stage was concerned, it was actually the conversion phase of Zhen Qi into Zhen Yuan, but Yishuan had already cleared this phase by completely transforming Zhen Yuan in his body, so for him, this stage was simply not an obstacle anymore. By relying on the promotive effects of Hehe Dan, Yishuan once again had a breakthrough and directly stepped into the Xiantian 6th stage. Boom! An incredible imposing aura erupted from his body and he opened his eyes all of a sudden. Chapter 146, Xiantian 7th Peak. Yizaiwen's imposing aura rose dramatically and his cultivation level soared at terrifying speed and rushed all the way to the Xiantian 6th stage, but Yishuan did not stop and immediately took out a bright red fruit from his storage ring. It was the Blood Yuan fruit. This is a pretty good thing, but it is best to wait and use it when you break through from the Xiantian 8th stage to the Xiantian 9th stage. It will save you a considerably large amount of painstaking effort at that time. Yi Mo said, "It's a pity that you are taking it now. I know that its effects would certainly be biggest if I take it at the time of breaking from Xiantian 8th stage, but I cannot wait for that time, because Luo Yifan's lackeys are certainly looking for my whereabouts, and although this Masha territory is quite big, but they will find me sooner or later." Yishuan said, "Before they find me, I must enhance my strength to such a state that I can protect myself." At present, when Yizaiwen's cultivation broke through to enter into the Xiantian 5th stage, and later to the Xiantian 6th stage, his fighting strength also skyrocketed to a great extent. Initially, he was able to easily defeat the masters of Xiantian's 6th stage and could contend with ordinary masters of Xiantian's 7th stage, but now, after successive breakthroughs, his fighting strength had definitely become comparable to a master of Xiantian 9th stage. However, this was not enough, because this time, in addition to inner seed disciples, even the seeds among the core disciples had come to Masha territory. And almost all of these seed core disciples were already in the Xiantian Great Realm, and even the weakest among them was at the peak of Xiantian 9th stage. Although, all of these seed core disciples might not be hostile to Yi Shiwen, but as long as there was even one or two, for Yi Shiwen, that would be fatal. At his current cultivation, he could at most compete with the ordinary master of Xiantian 9th stage, but he still wasn't a match for the masters at the peak of Xiantian 9th stage and Xiantian Great Realm, and while facing them, it would only be a dead end for him. Yi Shiwen must enhance his cultivation level once again and step into the next stage. After consuming blood yuan fruit, his fighting strength would increase once again to a new level, enough to sweep away even the core disciples of Xiantian Great Realm. At that time, if Luo Yifan personally didn't come into action, then no one else would be Yi Ziwen's opponent, and then, he would only need to avoid just one person, Luo Yifan, because as far as other people were concerned, he certainly didn't care, and it would naturally be simple to escape from just one man. Indeed. Yi Mo nodded and was very much satisfied in his heart from the decisive attitude of Yi Shiwen. A lot of people would have stayed confused and stuck, unable to choose between long-term interests and immediate interests, as this was really a difficult choice and could have blinded them, making them unable to make the right decision. However, if thought with calm mind, if they were dead then there would be no future left to fulfill the long-term interests. The truth was so simple, but not many people could have reached such a decision, and so quickly, like Yi Shiwen. This time, I must make that Luo Yifan understand the pain of losing his dear ones. Yi Shiwen smiled in a strange manner. This time, during the seed disciple competition, inner disciples failed to pose a threat to Yi Shiwen, and now, Yi Shiwen was the chief inner seed disciples himself, and Luo Yifan obviously knew about this, so he should have chosen core disciples to do the job, and not just ordinary core disciples. The ones who came to Masha territory were elites among the elites, almost all of them were in the Xiantian Great Realm. Some core disciples were at Xiantian 9th peak, but their strength was also almost comparable to that of the core disciples of Xiantian Great Realm. The masters of this level could set foot in the truth realm at any time, and the ambitious ones would want to create their own factions, which would ultimately go down in the history, or even compete for the leading position in the sect. Unless they had already joined someone else's faction a long time ago, or else at this level, very few would go to join someone else's faction, because at this level of strength, even on their own, they could easily create a strong enough faction in Yi Yuan school, then why would they become lackeys of someone else? Expecting various theories in the comments section, tongues sticking out. Therefore, Luo Yifan should have worked hard and put a lot of effort and energy in cultivating these seed-level core disciples, as they were not the same as those inner disciples, because if the case of inner disciples was considered, on the ranking list of inner seed disciples, almost every year, a large number of inner disciples would step into the Xiantian 6th stage, thereby departing from this list, but when the ranking list of core disciples was taken into consideration, it would take several years for someone to leave that list, because for many people, it could be said that promotion from the Xiantian 5th stage to Xiantian 6th stage was comparatively simple, especially when compared to the promotion from Xiantian Great Realm to the Truth Realm, and this was just because the breakthrough to the Truth Realm was not a simple matter, which was obvious from the fact that there were more than 100 seed core disciples, and not even one was able to enter into the truth realm in the past 3 or 4 years, and since no one was going up and it was natural that nobody had left this list, so it was also normal if this list did not change for several years. In fact, it happened before when the list didn't change for over a decade because no one was able to break into the truth realm, and this was the reason why the list generally changed only when these seed core disciples got older and eventually had to leave the sect, because, after reaching the age of 150 years, their blood began to decline, their strengths also declined, and some people were often kicked outside the seed core disciples rankings list, while others would take the initiative to leave on their own accord, then they would go and become elders or ancestors of the sub-schools. However, their decision was understandable, because after reaching the age of more than 150 years, it was very difficult to have a breakthrough and enter into the truth realm, and some of them also realized that they didn't have the talent to achieve the truth realm, so it was pointless to stay in the sect. So, if Yishuan killed several core disciple subordinates of Luo Yifan, then that would completely cut off Luo Yifan's influence, which was enough to make him feel the pain of losing dear ones. Yishuan immediately started eating the blood yuan fruit, and after taking full dose of bright red blood yuan fruit, the essence of the fruit quickly turned into a heat flow and started circulating throughout his body. His inner realm, that had already consolidated a moment ago at the Xiantian 6th stage, began to loosen up again, and compared to He Dan, the efficacy of blood yuan fruit was much more overbearing, and it instantly filled his entire body with intense heat. His complexion started to turn red, and if someone looked at him from afar, he would simply look like a blood-red person. Without the slightest hesitation, Yishuan quickly mobilized Jin Yuan in his body and began to hastily digest and assimilate the essence of blood yuan fruit within his body. The efficacy of the fruit started melting and assimilating in his body, while Yishuan also started practicing tyrant body technique as he was crazily absorbing this efficacy in his body. An intermittent burst of crackling sounds transmitted from his body, just like the firecrackers show on a new year. As his body continued to absorb the drug, it also started to transform simultaneously. The spirit stones also began to frantically burn inside his storage ring, while inside the mysterious space in his mind, the Deshang realm of second layer of Tyrant's body technique had already started to revolve frantically, and the third layer finally began to take shape and revealed its complete appearance to Yishuan. A total of 1,000 spirit stones were burned at a crazily fast speed. Only Yishuan was capable of crazily burning so many spirit stones at such a fast speed. And when such a large number of spirit stones were burned, Yishuan was able to completely estimate the third layer of Tyrant Body Technique, and by taking advantage of sprit stones and strength of blood yuan fruit, he also managed to have a breakthrough to the third layer of Tyrant Body Technique. Yi Zaiwen's imposing aura continued to break through from Xiantian 6th stage to intermediate Xiantian 6th stage, then from intermediate Xiantian 6th stage to late Xiantian 6th stage, Xiantian 6th peak, Xiantian 7th stage, intermediate Xiantian 7th stage, late Xiantian 7th stage, and finally to Xiantian 7th peak. Yi Zaiwen's cultivation madly rushed all the way to the peak of Xiantian 7th stage, then finally stopped. He was also able to gain the highest level of knowledge about the third layer of Tyrant Body Technique, just like he had achieved the highest knowledge of Divine Dragon Flings Its Tail, which also increased his might far more than before. Yishuan had Tianyuan Mirror to cover up all the fluctuations of his breath, otherwise such big movements accompanied with his breakthroughs would have attracted many devils, but now that he had Tianyuan Mirror, he simply was not afraid because Tianyuan Mirror was the nemesis of those devils, and even when facing truth-level devils, as long as it was not a peerless devil like that great devil leader who had fought with Qi Fifan, using the restraining effect of Tianyuan Mirror on the devils. Even if it was a truth-level devil, Yishuan was confident to take them on. And as far as other devils below truth level were considered, he simply didn't consider them as his opponents. After reaching the peak of Xiantian 7th peak, his fighting strength simply skyrocketed, and now, even masters of Xiantian Great Realm were not his match anymore. "Let's go." Yishuan got up and said. He stayed in this place for a whole day and night, but this time, the breakthrough didn't take too long thanks to blood yuan fruit and He Dan. Yishuan used Celestial Step and rushed towards the depths of Masha territory, and it seemed as if he was taking a stroll in a relaxed manner. However, his form flickered, and in the short time, he simply vanished in the line of sight. Far away, an army of over 1,000 great devils, under the leadership of a formidable great devil, was advancing towards a team of several disciples of Yi Yuan school. Their loud battle cries could be heard from far away, and sand was billowing from their advancement, while their loud roars were heart-shaking. Great Devil Army. Above a mountain peak, Yishuan used his torch-like vision and saw that this army was actually composed of great devils, and each of them were at least at Xiantian 5th stage and above, which was extremely frightening. Perhaps, except the royal blood guards of Great Yu State's royal clan, no other army could last in front of this great devil army. This is the first time that Yi Shuan had seen a regular army of devils, because the cases were entirely different in Masha territory and Huanma territory. Earlier, in the Huanma territory, the Huanma devils had been caught and locked up inside by the founder of Yi Yuan school, so they never really had their own heritage, so they couldn't be compared with the devils of Masha territory. This regular army was simply a nightmare for the idle warriors who weren't experienced in army battles. The existence of this army explained that there was a possibility of a kingdom of devil race in the depths of Masha territory, perhaps also more than one. So earlier, what that young Azura said about this place being his territory was true, then there should be a kingdom of Azura clan. This great devil army was different from that flagitious great devil that Yi Shuan had beheaded earlier, although they seemed equally flagitious and brutal, but a lot more disciplined and experienced, and it was obvious that this great devil army had been drilled for a long time and possessed huge battle experience. Yi Shuan looked again and saw a slender figure that seemed exceptionally familiar among the besieged disciples of Yi Yuan school. It was Hua Menghan. Chapter 147, Rescue Indeed. It was really Hua Menghan. Yi Shuan narrowed his eyes because he did not expect to see Hua Menghan, and he quickly realized that Hua Menghan actually turned out to be a seed-level core disciple. No wonder she had so much face and was able to mediate between Qianyu faction and senior factions by sending Jing Yannan. These days, one thing after another came up and Yi Shuan didn't have time to express his gratitude to her, but now, he unexpectedly met her here, in Masha territory. Besides Hua Menghan, Yi Shuan also saw a few familiar people whom he had already met before, and they were none other than Hu Yanghang and Jing Yannan. It was not a surprise that they were also seed-level core disciples, and in addition to the two of them, there was a beautiful girl, who appeared to be of same age as Hua Menghan, in a bright long skirt. Her posture was swaying as the sword was dancing in her hand, and each time her sword moved, a great devil was beheaded. There was also a grandiose man among them, his broadsword was dancing and giving rise to fierce winds, and these devils simply had no way to come close to his body. At this time, although they had been besieged by the great devil army, but the situation was not really too dangerous. After all these 5 masters were considered elites among the elites, and each one of them possessed outstanding strength, far more than the core disciples at the same cultivation level, not to mention, even if these great devils were flagitious and incomparably brutal, and possessed high cultivation levels, but they were still considered as cannon fodder level existence. In the devil race, and very few of them had practiced power techniques, and many of which were crude techniques, so it was certain that they were not the opponents of Hua Menghan and other seed-level core disciples. There was a difference of heaven and earth between the two sides when martial arts practice was taken into consideration. This was the difference between the elites and the masses. However, if the two sides were to fight a prolonged battle, then the strength of Hua Menghan and the others would soon be consumed, because in this situation, the bigger army implied greater might even if the great devils were not elites, because the size of army could be increased but the fighting strength of these elites couldn't be enhanced. However, after the great devil commander joined the battle, Hua Menghan and other core disciples soon fell under the wind. He was obviously stronger than the master of Xiantian Great Realm and should have entered half a step into the Truth Realm. And just by having the strength equivalent to a master of half-step truth level, this great devil commander was dominating on these 5 core seed disciples who were apparently all in the Xiantian Great Realm. It was obvious that their combined strength was also inferior to the strength of great devil commander, causing them to suddenly fall under the wind. When Yi Shuan saw the great devil commander, suddenly, his blood started to boil up. This great devil commander was a half-step truth-level existence, and looking at Yi Zaiwen's current strength, great devil commander was truly his opponent, because right now, although Yi Shuan was at the peak of Xiantian's 7th stage, but his fighting strength was equivalent to a master of half-step truth realm, which was far more than the strength of Xiantian Great Realm masters. In short, this great devil commander was the best opponent for him. This great devil commander should prove the best opponent at my current strength. Yi Shuan narrowed his eyes and said, "Wait here and control the Tianyuan mirror, do not let it release its restraining powers, I want to test my true strength." If Tianyuan mirror released its suppression, then perhaps, the great devil commander would quickly die at the hands of Yi Shuan. And right now, this wasn't Yi Zaiwen's main goal. No problem, Yi-Mo said. Although he would often help Yishuan in suppressing those devils so Yishuan could easily behead them, but that was only a means to help in his fast growth. Everybody, withstand for a little longer, I have sent a distress signal, and soon, someone should come to our rescue. Jing Yannan exclaimed to raise the morale of other 5 disciples, but they were fighting silently, because they were elites and understood to keep their minds calm and focused. Especially, Hua Menghan and the grandiose man with broadsword were collaborating to fight the great devil commander, but they were feeling enormous pressure and horrifying strength of a half-step true master, and it could be said that to a certain extent, he already possessed some of the strength of a truth-level master. Even if 2 people were together fighting with him, they weren't the slightest relaxed. It was obvious that Great Devil Commander was more familiar with the art of war, and at this time, this was also making them feel distressed and powerless in front of him. Then, suddenly, a long and loud howling sound came from far away, and it gradually came closer and closer. Moreover, it was so fast that in a blink of an eye, it arrived at the scene, and one could guess the insane speed of the approaching person just from hearing the howling sound, which was simply like the lightning that arrived in the vicinity in a flash. Suddenly, a flash instantly crashed into the Great Devil Army, and even this drilled and experienced Great Devil Army was simply not the match of this blade light which simply pierced through them, collapsing one after another, and the weak Great Devils that came in the range of this attack instantly died or got severely wounded. Who is that? Great Devil Commander suddenly roared, then immediately stopped fighting with Hua Menghan and the grandiose man, because in his heart, these humans did not pose a threat to him, and under his army's encirclement, these damn lowly humans would eventually have to die. The blade light crossed through the Great Devil Army and immediately and fiercely rushed toward the Great Devil Commander. Boom! A huge explosion occurred and a mushroom cloud appeared on the spot. This was now the battle between 2 half-step true masters, although they only possessed a part of the total strength of a true master, but masters of Xiantian Great Realm weren't capable of producing such an atomic bomb-like explosion, and it was simply impossible for masters of Xiantian Ninth Peak. The flash of light dissipated and revealed the silhouette of a figure. When Hua Menghan saw this figure, a surprised look immediately appeared on her face, because that person was none other than Yishuan. She never thought that in such a short amount of time, Yishuan would actually become so formidable. She remembered that the first time she saw him, he was just at the Hotian realm, and at that time, she felt grateful to him for saving her life, but she thought that it would end at this. After all, he was only a Hotian realm warrior, and even if he managed to step into the Xiantian realm in the future, it was still most unlikely that they would ever intersect each other's path in this lifetime. However, all of this changed in less than 1 year, when Yi Zaiwen's strength had a rapid development, and when she saw him again, he was already a master of the Xiantian realm and was also considered the leader of younger generation of his sub-school, and later, he also became the leader of new disciples. The second time, she heard about him when Qianyu faction was in trouble, and at that time, she used her influence to buy some time for Qianyu faction, but she did not hold any hope for them to win. She just wanted to do something to help Yishuan, but not on a grand scale, otherwise it could lead to him becoming an eyesore in the eyes of a lot of people. But, she did not expect that he would actually win the battle against Imohan and lead to the smooth establishment of Qianyu faction, but she again received news about Yishuan becoming the chief inner seed disciple. Moreover, this time, it was a recognition that could not be questioned or argued upon by anyone. Although, now, he was merely the chief inner seed disciple, but in a major sect like Yi Yuan school, becoming a chief was like a seat of honor, because even if he was only the chief of inner disciples, but this status could only be obtained by 1 in a million disciples and required both talent and formidable strength. This should be the 3rd time she saw Yishuan, but now, he was no longer that skinny teenager whom she met the first time, and had actually grown up into a fine youth. The youth who once saved her life had just now rushed straight into the Great Devil Army, and not just that, he went straight for the Great Devil Commander, an existence that she and other masters couldn't take on together. This rapid transformation was simply unbelievable. The one who was more baffled than Hua Menghan was actually Hu Yanghang. He certainly remembered Yishuan, but in his memory, Yishuan was simply nothing and could only be regarded as a little guy, a nasty bug, and for him, so long as he wanted, crushing a petty bug like Yishuan was very convenient, but now, he couldn't believe his eyes when he saw that a bug like Yishuan had actually grown so formidable. Immediately, a strong killing intent boiled up in his heart. An astonished look appeared on the face of Jing Yannan when he looked at the formidable figure of Yishuan. In such a short time, the young boy, who, at that time, had especially come forward to greet him, actually turned into such a fierce master. He was now sure that he was not wrong about Yizaiwen's future growth. Dark green clothes, that long blade and a proud demeanor. In the end, just what kind of experience did he go through that caused his cultivation to increase to such outrageous proportions? Everyone was astonished at the sudden arrival of Yishuan, but he didn't care and directly engaged in fighting with the great devil commander. Damn you, you lowly human, you dare to treat out great devil race as hunting objects, you are courting death. The great devil commander shouted in an angry voice, and his words seemed like they were thundering again and again, while an endless amount of machi emerged out of the giant spear in his hands and instantly filled the entire surrounding space. Devil sweeps the universe. The endless amount of machi transformed into countless spears made up of spurki, and seemed like hiding the sky and covering the earth, and swept straight towards Yishuan. The long blade flashed in the hand of Yishuan and a bright blade light was instantly chopped out, displaying the creative concept of Yizaiwen's blade skill, and it seemed as if a diagram of a round bright moon was descending and suppressing towards the great devil commander. Suddenly, along with a dazzling glare, Bladiki severely collided with the several spears, and energy waves spread in all directions like mighty ocean waves and completely swept away some of the great devil soldiers. In the frenzy of raging energy waves, these great devils simply turned into flying ashes. At that moment, standing in front of Yishuan, the great devil commander felt a strange feeling from Yizaiwen's body, which suddenly increased his palpitations, although this feeling was very mild, but it made him feel very unpleasant, as if he was standing in front of Sovereign King. However, at this time, he had no time to think about why was he getting such a feeling and suddenly shouted, "Damn human, go to hell." Devil splits the vast sky. The giant spear danced in his hands and a terrifying spurky spread in the sky, and it seemed as if it was completely splitting the atmosphere, and this sight was quite overwhelming. Chapter 148, Great Devil Commander Beheaded, Devil Splits the Vast Sky. The giant spear danced in his hands and a terrifying spurky spread in the sky, and it seemed as if it was completely splitting the atmosphere and blotting the sky. This sight was quite overwhelming. This spurky was incomparably terrifying and produced a sharp piercing sound, as if all other sounds had completely vanished from the atmosphere, leaving only the dreadful sound of spears rushing through the sky. Full moon beheader. Yishuan shouted, and suddenly, his appearance looked like the lightning itself, and using just his arm, he instantly chopped out Bladiki, which instantly turned into a diagram of a full moon and pressed down from above just like the Mount Tai. The layer upon layer of terrifying spurki rushed penetrating through the space and instantly stabbed into the diagram of full moon. The full moon suddenly exuded endless amount of moonlight and immediately flushed into the spurki, which was completely obliterated by the enormous might of bright moonlight. This was no moonlight. It was actually Yizaiwen's frightening Bladiki. He had managed to move one step further and integrated the creative concept with his Bladiki, and as far as his opponents were concerned, this attack was simply like a road roller-like existence. Compared with Yizaiwen's former pure creative concept, the might of this attack was simple unimaginable, and it was hard to determine how much stronger it had actually become. After completely obliterating the spurki, Yishuan did not stop and took out his long blade and instantly chopped out a terrifying Bladiki. The Bladiki instantly rushed towards the great devil commander, and it seemed as if it was tearing the sky of Masha territory and would split him into two halves any moment. Lowly human. The great devil commander shouted, and his voice resounded like a loud explosion, and giant spear in the hands instantly sketched the outline of devilish sun in the void, which then released dark and horrifying rays of light towards the Bladiki of Yishuan. Boom! Layer upon layer of shock waves swept across in all directions when the spear attack clashed maliciously against the blade attack of Yishuan. Bang! 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 Both of them felt a wave of horrifyingly massive strength from the clash of their attacks and withdrew several steps back, leaving deep footprints on the ground. On the side of Yi Shiwen, when a group of great devils saw that Yi Shiwen had been repulsed, they thought to take advantage of this opportunity and immediately advanced towards him while shrieking strangely, as if to rip him to shreds. Yi Shiwen waved the long blade and a huge blade light swept out which rushed towards several great devils and instantly chopped them into two halves, while some of them instantly turned into minced meat. Abominable human. When Great Devil Commander saw that several of his devil men were instantly killed by Yi Shiwen, he suddenly roared out of anger and frustration. This was a deadly duel, not just between two masters, but between two sides, because the outcome of this duel affected the situation of both sides. After all, the survival of the team of Yi Yuan School's Seed Core disciples or the Great Devil Army depended on this duel. One was the commander of Great Devil Army and his cultivation level was at the half-step truth level, which was almost equivalent to that of true masters. The other one was a fortuitous master, looking for adventure but his fighting strength was also comparable to that of the masters of half-step truth realm. The collision between the two sides was destined to cause the heaven to fall and earth to shatter. The giant spear violently danced in the hands of Great Devil Commander, and produced sad and shrill howling sound, like the frightening shrieks and pitiful screams of devils. These pitiful screams belonged to the dead and were quite terrifying, filled with the lingering resentments of dead, and these resentments were attached at the tip of the spear, and as a result of this, the might of the spear didn't decrease, on the contrary, because of these screams and curses of the dead, the overall might of the spear increased by multiple folds and made it very formidable. The existence of Spurky produced round after round of roaring sounds, and it seemed as if the whole world had suddenly changed, the sound of intermittent crying and pitiful screaming had spread everywhere, it was like the whole world was falling into the hell, which was truly terrifying. At this moment, his spear technique seemed to have reached a high degree of proficiency, close to perfection, indicating that Great Devil Commander had practiced an authentic Modeo-based power technique. Yi Shiwen wasn't the slightest scared of this and maliciously chopped out an unstoppable blade light. In this battle, it could be said that Yi Shiwen was completely unleashing his true strength and enjoying the battle to his heart's content. Each and every collision was setting off boundless shock waves in the air along with intermittent screams and cries. It was the Great Devil Commander's spear attack of resentful souls but was completely annihilated by Yi Shiwen and vanished from this world along with the suffering souls that soon disappeared as well. Each time the two sides clashed, the great devils present in the vicinity would be swept off their feet, but Yi Shiwen simply did not care, because even if more of these devils were dying, it was none of his concern, and even the Great Devil Commander's eyes were blood-red and didn't seem to hold back and was fighting with all his might without caring about the lives of his subordinates. Those great devils quickly withdrew far away from these two because the aftermath of their battle was really too terrifying. Once again, the blade and the spear fiercely clashed. Boom! Zhen Yuan was crazily raging within Yi Ziwen's body. Tyrant body technique was also rapidly revolving inside his body and wrapping up a layer of golden light on his skin. When looked from afar, Yi Shiwen looked just like a golden god of war while the Zhen Yuan had formed a shield and blocking off all the impacts from outside. There was a faint figure of coiling dragon totally entrenched on Yi Ziwen's body and was emitting intense dragon qi, and even with his relentless attacks, the Great Devil Commander was finding it very difficult to break through the protective barrier of coiling dragon on Yi Shiwen. Yi Shiwen had already practiced Hidden Dragon Rises from the Abyss move of Coiling Dragon Palm to the Acme level and reached its perfection. Moreover, the coiling dragon wrapped on his body was the true nemesis of devils. At a distant place, although great devils had temporarily spread around a little, but Hua Menghan and other disciples had joined forces and were sticking together to protect themselves and were watching the fierce battle going on between Yi Shiwen and the Great Devil Commander, which seemed to have reached a very intense stage. There were astonished looks in their eyes and all of them were constantly exclaiming while witnessing this insane battle. Hu Yanghang was the only one among them who had a disdained look on his face and was perniciously looking at Yi Shiwen. He was jealous of Yi Shiwen, extremely jealous, to such an extent that it was making him unable to stay calm. In a place where no one else was looking, he pinched a secret technique under his sleeves and secretly sent a message from his summoning talisman, which then instantly departed towards the heaven. Yi Shiwen, I will see how you die. Damn human, today is the day of your death. The great devil commander said in a cold voice, and his voice was so cold and grim, it seemed as if it was emerging out of an icehouse. Originally, the great devil commander always kept aloof, but he held an unusual hatred for humankind. Perhaps lower-level devils were not aware of this, but he was well aware of the fact that the situation of the devils living in Masha territory was no different than that of a bunch of pigs, raised by formidable humans to be slaughtered in order to hone the skills of disciples of their sect. This was extremely painful for him. In fact, the thing which was even greater than this pain was actually the great shame that the proud devil race had to bear in Masha territory. If his devil race managed to become strong and their strength exceeded a certain extent, then they would be beheaded by the formidable humans who occasionally came inside Masha territory from time to time for inspection. He was scared that such a fate would ultimately befall him because he was a strong great devil himself. For the devil race of Masha territory, those who managed to become formidable would eventually be killed by formidable humans, and those who were not strong would be beheaded by the disciples of those formidable humans, and this was going to be their fate for generations. No, he would absolutely not allow such a fate to befall him. He would not become a stepping stone for these human disciples. He was an invincible devil. He must transcend this cage, then kill all humans and turn Zhen Wujia into a breeding field for devil race. All these humans were damn. A terrifying machi flooded out of the entire body of Great Devil Commander. There was deadki also infused with his machi, and faint ghostly shadows could clearly be seen condensed with the machi. The complexion on the face of Great Devil Commander suddenly paled because he condensed a huge amount of his energy in this attack. One could hear the sad and shrill screams coming from the ghostly shadows condensed around the giant spear, and the endless amount of deadki was sizzling and making noise. It seemed as if it was corroding the air itself, and then, it instantly flew straight towards Yi Shiwen. Yi Shiwen suddenly felt that a terrifying spear machine was firmly locking on his body, followed by a surge of horrifying pressure which instantly released from the spear and pressured down on him. Yi Shiwen started to madly revolve tyrant body technique inside his body because he knew that this was definitely the last resort of this great devil commander, and as long as he was able to block this move, there would be no way out for the great devil commander. Yi Shiwen was not a recalcitrant. He instantly used Celestial Step and his figure shot forward, while his figure left after images and he instantly vanished, but at this time, he suddenly discovered that the spear was closely following him. Yi Shiwen did not have the chance to dodge, so he immediately clenched his teeth and shouted loudly, "Hidden dragon rises from the abyss." In an instant, endless amount of dragon chi completely surrounded his body, and his entire body suddenly disappeared inside the inexhaustible amount of dragon chi. A gigantic dragon, which was several meters long, immediately took shape and stretched out its claws and directly grasped toward that terrifying spear made up of deadki. Boom! A terrible explosion occurred, and that terrifying spear was firmly grabbed in the claws of the incarnation of gigantic dragon, while a mutually intense ablation started between dragon chi and deadki, which issued a buzzing sound, and this was an exceptionally fearful sight to witness. The spear filled with deadki struggled in the grasp of that incarnation of the gigantic dragon, released by Yi Ziwen's coiling dragon palm technique, and was directly broken into pieces in midair. Broken inch by inch. Poof! The great devil commander screamed pitifully, spouted a mouthful of blood, while his burly stature swayed and slowly fell down on the ground. Devil, die! Suddenly, a loud shout came from the sky, and while shaking the entire sky, a terrifying bladiki instantly descended from the sky, and the great devil commander was instantly split into two halves. At that time, his ability to resist had completely disappeared. After issuing that move, which was obviously his last resort, he had completely exhausted his strength and was directly cleft in two by Yi Shiwen. When Great Devil Commander was killed by Yi Shiwen, the Great Devil Army immediately aligned themselves in a formation and started to retreat while showing excellent discipline. Their retreat was definitely not like the act of escaping mob. Yi Shiwen, Hua Menghan and other disciples did not want to pursue them. After all, the Great Devil Army was not defeated, only their commander was killed. However, Yi Shiwen didn't get time to relax because a loud shout suddenly arrived from far away. Where is Yi Shiwen? Chapter 149, Luo Clan's Dogs, Where is Yishuan? A loud shout came from far away and gradually came nearer, and only in a while, 3 youths who had 25 or 26-year-old appearances arrived on the battlefield. One of them was a female with a radiant face like the moon itself. Another man had a medium build, looked ordinary, but appeared to have a tolerant and steady bearing. The last one looked handsome and was wearing a magnificent robe. The cultivation levels of all 3 of them were extremely high and could not be underestimated. All of them had almost approached close to entering half a step into the truth realm, whereas, the beautiful moon-faced woman was already a master of half-step truth realm, although her cultivation level was not as good as that of Yishuan, but not far off either. After seeing this trio, Hua Menghan's complexion suddenly changed, and a look of unhappiness flashed on her face, especially after seeing the beautiful woman who was standing in the middle of the trio. "Who is Yishuan?" the beautiful woman asked in a cold voice. "Luo senior sister apprentice, he is Yishuan." From the crowd, Hu Yanghang suddenly stepped up and said while pointing towards Yishuan. This immediately aroused discontented feelings in the hearts of Jing Yannan, Hua Menghan and other core seed disciples. It was Yishuan who saved all of them a moment ago, but at this time, Hu Yanghang didn't think twice before betraying him. They could tell that Hu Yanghang was a typical faker and not at all authentic, but when their gazes were directed towards Yishuan, they knew in their hearts that this guy was really authentic. Now, they could not help but stay away from Hu Yanghang. In their hearts, they secretly decided that it was not worth to maintain a close and long-standing friendship with a guy like Hu Yanghang, because they couldn't trust him anymore, since he turned out to be a guy who might betray them as well. Hu Yanghang did have the slightest idea about other people's suddenly changed perception about him, because right now, the only thing remaining in his heart was envy and hatred for Yishuan. Initially, Yi Zaiwen's existence was nothing more than a bug in his eyes, but now, he himself turned into a bug-like figure in front of Yishuan, who actually became so fierce and formidable that he was simply not a match of Yishuan at all. This stark contrast made him feel exceptionally uncomfortable. "You are Yishuan?" Luo senior sister apprentice looked coldly at Yishuan and lightly said. "I am, who are you?" Yishuan looked at that Luo senior sister apprentice and said, while he could clearly see the ill intent in her eyes. Yishuan also looked coldly at Luo senior sister apprentice. "Yishuan, you have eyes but cannot see empty Tai," Hu Yanghang said in a complacent and triumphant manner. "Shut up, who do you think you are, daring to teach me?" Yishuan shouted in an angry voice and released sonic waves, which swept out towards Hu Yanghang like mighty ocean waves. The color of Hu Yanghang's face suddenly changed to purple, similar to the color of a pig's liver, and he immediately held his breath. "You are courting death." Hu Yanghang was short of breath and suddenly shouted, but he simply forgot the performance of Yishuan from a while back, that had completely left him in a stunned state. His fist blasted and a terrifying Quan Jin rushed towards Yishuan and rumbled maliciously. But at this time, Yishuan also moved, his figure suddenly swayed, and at the same time, he also caught the Quan Jin in his hand and directly crushed it. In an instant, Yishuan already arrived in front of Hu Yanghang, and using big profound hand, he instantly routed the Zhen Yuan present inside the body of Hu Yanghang, then grabbed his neck. Yi Zaiwen's palm looked just like an iron hoop when it firmly clutched Hu Yanghang's neck, and he seemed just like a chicken, clutched in the claws of an eagle. Everyone present there suddenly reacted, but then, they realized that Hu Yanghang was already in the grasp of Yishuan. It happened so fast, it was simply like a miracle, no one could even see when it happened, because Hu Yanghang could not even use a single move to resist and was immediately grabbed by Yishuan. Hu Yanghang's neck was in the firm grasp of Yishuan while his whole body was being locked down by Yi Zaiwen's formidable Zhen Yuan, and due to that, he basically did not have any strength left to even move. His face suddenly flushed with shame, he couldn't breathe properly, he was mad, he just could not accept in his heart, how could Yishuan, an insect-like figure, become so formidable in so less time that he had actually been grabbed in Yi Zaiwen's clutches simply like a trash. He hated this, he was anxious to kill Yishuan earlier. If only he had gotten rid of Yishuan earlier, then he would not be in such a situation. I have not gone to look for you, but you actually dared to come out on your own. You are just a trash who dares to plot against me again and again. Today, you will pay the price. Yi Shiwen sneered and said. Stop. Suddenly, Yi Shiwen heard a loud shout of that beautiful woman surnamed Luo, directed at him, while she instantly shot an enormous breath, which locked on Yi Shiwen, and the fluctuations in her martial arts instantly turned intense. Yi Shiwen immediately pulled over Hu Yanghangs to stand in front of him to block the attack. Boom! A terrifying power maliciously rumbled into the body of Hu Yanghang. He screamed pitifully and his body was covered with blood, his bones were broken, but at this instant, Yi Shiwen quickly and secretly shot his palm at the top of his pubic region. Hu Yanghang's martial arts were directly wasted and he immediately fainted and fell on the ground. How dare you! That charming woman shouted in an angry voice and viciously stared at Yi Shiwen, while keeping a close eye on him. You also saw, it was not me who did this. Yi Shiwen readily said in an indifferent tone and threw fainted Hu Yanghang aside. You, the charming woman glared angrily at him and said. Luo Fangyi, you sent your brother to kill me, if you have the ability then try and do it yourself. At this time, Hua Menghan said. Shut up you slut, do you think I cannot kill you? If it was not for giving face to master, you would have already died long ago. Luo Fangyi suddenly shouted. Luo Fangyi, I am the closing disciple of head, this position is comparable to that of true disciples, you're just a trivial sect disciple, do you think you can actually dare to defy your superiors? Hua Menghan suddenly scowled and said in a serious tone. What did you say? Luo Fangyi glared at Hua Menghan with an apparent anger flashing in her round eyes. Yi Shiwen finally understood that this woman was the elder sister of Luo Tian, the guy who was trying to kill Hua Menghan that day by poisoning her. Master is considering, Luo Tian's death is insufficient, it's a pity that he has not vented his anger on your Luo clan, you are lucky. Hua Menghan said without the slightest yielding in her tone. Venting anger on my Luo clan just for you. My granduncle is a celestial elder of Yi Yuan school, my uncle is also an elder, and my brother is a true disciple who will also take over the position of head of our clan in the future. Do you still think you can mess with our Luo clan? Luo Fangyi shouted in an angry voice. From Luo Fangyi's roaring voice, a general outline of a formidable clan was sketched out and Yi Shiwen finally came to understand that perhaps, the influence of Luo clan was quite strong in Yi Yuan school. Luo Yifan himself was a true disciple, in the future, he might also have the opportunity to compete for the position of sect head, and his uncle was an elder and should obviously be in the truth realm, and more importantly, he had a so-called grand-uncle, who was actually a Taishang elder, which was said to be the biggest authority in Yi Yuan school, of course, only after the authority of head and the chiefs of the 9 peaks of Yi Yuan school, in total 10 individuals. But the authority of a Taishang elder was very large, and he could also question the decisions made by sect head as well as chiefs of various peaks. In fact, some heads and chiefs were usually the apprentices of Taishang elders. It could be imagined that Luo clan was another huge influence in Yi Yuan school and even the sect head could not put his hands on them if there was not enough reason for it. All of these people were illustrious figures in Yi Yuan school and held a major influence. With Luo clan's prominent influence, it was no wonder that Luo Tian was at the Xiantian 3rd stage back then and had actually tried to kill Hua Menghan by poisoning her. It could be guessed that he had nothing to fear because even if he failed, Luo clan would shelter him and so long as the Taishang elder of Luo clan would come forward, the sect head would have no alternative but to show due respect to him, regardless of how he actually felt. But even after considering all that, he never calculated that he would end up meeting Yi Shiwen and would get beheaded before even getting a chance to properly brag about his own family background. After knowing this, Yi Shiwen felt an increasingly tremendous pressure. So he was not against just one person, Luo Yifan, but it was actually an entire clan having several truth-level masters as its members. However, since it had already begun then there was nothing to say anymore. Today, I'm going to block him and keep here, soon my elder brother will come, and he has said that he would personally kill him. Luo Fangyi sneered and said. Luo Fangyi did not pay attention to Hua Menghan because her cultivation level was inferior compared to her own cultivation level. Yi Shiwen, hurry up and escape. At your current strength you are not an opponent of Luo Yifan, you have absolutely no chance of winning against him. Yi Mo's voice suddenly resounded in his mind. Yi Shiwen also knew that if Luo Yifan was on the way, then perhaps, he would catch up soon, and in that case, he certainly could not stay here any longer. Even though he had achieved the strength comparable to the masters of half-step truth realm, but this strength would be insufficient in front of a true master like Luo Yifan. At his current strength, if he bumped into Luo Yifan then the consequences could be disastrous, and it was simply a no-brainer that Luo Yifan would kill him on the spot. Yi Shiwen quickly analyzed the actions of the members of Luo clan, which also gave him a general insight about Luo clan. Luo Tian was only a master of Xiantian 3rd stage, but he still tried to kill a closing disciple of the head of Yi Yuan school. Luo Fangyi attacked Hu Yanghang and he ended up getting crippled, but she did not care at all, and Luo Yifan blatantly interfered during seed disciple competition. Congregating all these facts, one could see the arrogant and overbearing demeanor of Luo clan and also its extraordinary influence in Yi Yuan school, so conclusion could be drawn from this that Luo Yifan would definitely kill him without worrying about anything. Brother Yi, where do you think you are going? Yi Shiwen was about to leave when suddenly, the figure of the mediocre-looking man moved and appeared in front of Yi Shiwen, blocking his way. Who are you? Yi Shiwen asked. Xie Yi. The man lightly said. Get out of the way. Yi Shiwen said. Since Brother Luo is coming, you will have to wait for some time. Xie Yi said in a cold voice. Although he said in a very polite tone, but his words were actually filled with contempt. So, you are a lackey of that Luo? Yi Shiwen narrowed his eyes and said with a killing intention flashing in his eyes. Luo Yifan has raised quite a few loyal dogs. Shut up, how dare you casually say Brother Luo's name like that? The handsome man said, if you had not thoroughly angered Brother Luo then we would have killed you by now. Who are you? Yi Shiwen asked. Mu Yi. The handsome man replied, since Brother Luo is aiming for your life himself, we will let you live until Brother Luo arrives here. Well, I wonder if Luo Yifan would regret it when he gets to know that 3 of his core disciples died at once. A cold smile appeared on the face of Yi Shiwen. Yi Shiwen suddenly moved, his physique flashed, and in an instant, a burst of terrifying imposing aura spread throughout the sky. Chapter 150, Reparations. After saying that, Yi Shiwen suddenly moved, his physique flashed, and in an instant, a burst of terrifying imposing aura spread throughout the sky. If he wanted to get away then the only way left for him was to behead all 3 of them as soon as possible. The speed of Yi Shiwen was so fast that none of the people present at the scene could see him clearly. He instantly used Celestial Step and it could be seen that his movements were already at the acme level, and perhaps, only Luo Fangyi might just be able to slightly track his movements. Yi Shiwen, since you are so eager to die, then we have no choice but to kill you in place of Brother Luo. Mu Yi shouted loudly and immediately moved in order to stop Yi Shiwen and rushed straight towards him, while his terrifying strength of Xiantian Great, which was nearly approaching the strength of half a step truth realm, instantly spread out and a huge chi field enveloped Yi Shiwen inside it. Boom! Yi Shiwen shot his palm and the huge chi field instantly exploded, and within the endless frenzy of Jin Yuan after the explosion, Mu Yi could not react, and in a flash, Yi Shiwen had already arrived in front of him. Coiling Dragon Palm. Hidden Dragon rises from the abyss. There was a panic-stricken look in the eyes of Mu Yi, and at this time, Yi Zaiwen's palm turned into dragon claws and maliciously slammed on his chest. Boom! Mu Yi, a master of the Xiantian Great Realm, was directly sent flying, all the bones in his body completely shattered. He spurted out a mouthful of blood mixed with some visceral matter released from his crushing internal organs. With just one palm attack from Yi Shiwen, this extremely arrogant guy was instantly sent flying, then immediately, Yi Zaiwen's body shuttled forward like an arrow towards Mu Yi and shoved a fierce kick on his body in mid-air, and his body directly plummeted on the ground. Boom! Yi Zaiwen's kick was not one bit less fierce compared to his palm attack. Half of Mu Yi's body was directly split open by Yi Zaiwen's kick, his internal organs were crushed and his Zhenyuan was completely disrupted. It was now simply impossible for him to live in such a state. Impossible! Xie Yi shouted in disbelief because the strength of Mu Yi and his own strength were almost at the same level, but he just could not believe his eyes when he saw that not just Mu Yi was unable to block Yi Shiwen, he was also so effortlessly killed by Yi Shiwen. Yi Zaiwen's strength was simply unimaginable and super tyrannical. How could this Yi Shiwen be so tyrannical? How dare you kill a disciple of the same sect? You're done for, because now, not only you but your entire family must die. Xie Yi yelled. A cold look flashed in the eyes of Yi Shiwen. It was the most unacceptable thing for him when someone threatened his family, because if his family was even touched by anyone then it would simply invoke the wrath of the Dragon Emperor itself inside of him. In this entire world, Yi Shiwen only held unbreakable bond with his family and could do anything for them, and if someone threatened him using his family then they would certainly be courting death. Boom! The tyrannical imposing aura of Yi Shiwen scattered in all directions. It seemed as if his whole persona was just like a tornado while intermittent horrifying blast waves were rolling out of his body. In a flash, Yi Zaiwen's stature suddenly ejected straight towards Xie Yi just like an artillery shell. Xie Yi simply could not react and just saw a huge palm coming closer and closer towards his face and instantly went toward his cheek. Bold! Luo Fangyi shouted and pointed her finger towards Yi Shiwen, and it seemed as if the finger-point attack would break the world itself, and accompanied with air explosions while producing a zzzz sound in the air, it instantly arrived near Yi Shiwen. Get lost! Yi Shiwen shouted loudly, and suddenly, layer upon layer of sound waves proliferated through the atmosphere and blocked the finger-point attack of Luo Fangyi. Luo Fangyi immediately had to withdraw several steps because even if she was a master of the half-step truth realm, but this realm consisted of strong as well as weak masters and Yi Shiwen was clearly the strongest in the half-step truth realm while Luo Fangyi could only be regarded at the bottom of the half-step truth realm. Luo Fangyi did not have a way to stop Yi Shiwen while his palm continued to get closer and closer to Xie Yi. Smack! A loud sound of slap resounded and Xie Yi's body was instantly sent flying while spinning and a mouthful of his teeth were also broken by the fierce slap from Yi Shiwen. Bang! Yi Shiwen directly trampled the dantian of Xie Yi and crushed it. After his dantian was destroyed, his body could no longer withstand the gravity and started falling towards the ground in an upside-down state. Yi Zaiwen's long blade chopped out a terrifying bladiki which directly caught up with the flying body of Xie Yi. Puchi! Xie Yi was cleft in two halves in the midair by Yi Zaiwen's bladiki. Jing Yannan looked at Yi Shiwen and could not help but held his breath for a moment. He did not expect Yi Shiwen to be so ruthless that he would mercilessly kill people in rage but still in a decisive manner without any hesitation. When most people came to know about the true background of a clan like Luo clan then they would certainly hesitate and even try to sort out enmity and differences, even after knowing that there was no room left to sort out anything, and very few would dare to directly kill. Cultivating seed-level core disciples was not an easy task and it could even be said that these people had been especially trained by Luo clan to be used in the future when they managed to break into the truth realm. They were one of the valuable assets of Luo clan and now that they had been beheaded, the rage of Luo clan could be imagined. Now, there was no turning back for the two sides. Only death was the ultimate solution. You dare, Luo Fangyi looked unbelievably at Yi Shiwen. Luo clan's overbearing influence was well known to everyone and most people did not dare to go against Luo clan. Even one mention of the name of Luo was enough to make them scared. She was shocked not because of Yi Zaiwen's ruthlessness because compared to him, she had been much more cruel, she had committed a lot of cruel acts and that was the reason why she was able to reach her current level, which was a proof of her ruthlessness, but it was all what she had done to others, no one ever did this to her until now. Who do you think you are? Since you dared to intercept me, be prepared to die. Yi Shiwen said in an extremely angry voice, which was quite scary to hear. They not just threatened him but his family as well, so now, he was fully convinced that he would absolutely not allow the people of Luo clan to hurt his family, at any cost. This was definitely not a joke. Luo Fangyi could clearly feel the murderous aura coming out of Yi Zaiwen's body, and it was no secret that he was really intending to kill her. From the earlier fight, Luo Fangyi knew that she was definitely not the opponent of Yi Shiwen, which extremely frightened her in her heart. How could Yi Shiwen be so formidable? His strength was simply unimaginable and was clearly above her own strength. After arriving here, she did not try to kill Yi Shiwen just because of her brother's request to trap Yi Shiwen in this place and stop him from escaping, so that when her brother would come, he would personally kill Yi Shiwen, so none of them had planned to kill Yi Shiwen from the outset. At this moment, she suddenly shivered because she realized that if she had tried to kill him earlier, then she would have been the first one to die. Thinking of this, suddenly, a chill ran down her spine and she instantly turned around to escape from Yi Shiwen. You want to escape? Humph. She turned around to escape, but a surge of Jin Yuan hit her from behind and exploded, making her to instantly fall on the ground, followed by a figure dropping from the sky towards her. Yi Shiwen directly stepped on her body, and the terrifying strength applied an intense pressure on her chest and she immediately spouted a mouthful of blood. Today, none of you are going to escape. Yi Shiwen said in a cold voice. Yi Shiwen originally did not want to slaughter them, that's why he just abolished the martial arts of Hu Yanghang and did not kill him, but later, these three thoroughly enraged him by bringing his family into this matter, and now, no matter what, he decided to exterminate all three of them, because even one of them managed to escape then trouble would follow, but as long as no evidence was found by the Luo clan, then they could only plan secret attacks on him like today and would not be able to publicly prosecute him without the solid evidence. He needed to be careful, because if the evidence was found by the Luo clan then they had many ways to deal with him. In fact, they could even use their influence in the sect to deal with him, and by that time, if he did not possess enough strength to take on Luo clan, then that would really be a dead end for him. Yi Zaiwen's Jin Yuan was like the firmest shackles and had firmly locked down Luo Fangyi on the ground, she could not even move. Junior sister apprentice Hua, junior sister apprentice Hua, save me. At this time, Luo Fangyi looked at Hua Menghan, as if she was looking at the peerless savior, and tried to seize the last ray of hope to save her life. Seeing that Hua Menghan turned away, suddenly, a feeling of despair arose in her heart, and she quickly shouted, Junior sister apprentice Hua, we are disciples of the same master, if you do know help me and master got to know about this then he would certainly remove you from status of closing disciple. I did not see anything. A look of disgust flashed in the eyes of Hua Menghan, and seeing the current state of Luo Fangyi under the feet of Yi Shiwen, she actually felt some pleasant sensations in her heart. From the day she had entered the main sect, Luo Fangyi had been constantly causing troubles for her because Luo Fangyi thought that after the arrival of Hua Menghan, the head would not receive her as closing disciple, so Luo Fangyi was always looking for trouble, and some time ago, she sent her brother to poison Hua Menghan. If she had not met Yi Shiwen back then, death would have been small, because before dying, she would have faced severe atrocities and insult. Considering this, the anger in the heart of Hua Menghan was not smaller than that of Yi Shiwen. Hearing the words of Hua Menghan, Luo Fangyi was demented and immediately shouted, You damn bitch, you see somebody in trouble and still refuse to help, I will. Before she could finish the sentence, Yi Shiwen directly killed her, and at this time, not a shred of mercy was present in his heart. After all, if not handled in a cleanly manner, then perhaps, it could invite greater trouble in the future. We must hurry and report to the sect. Senior sister apprentice Luo and her team fought vigorously with the devils but lost the battle after they exhausted their strengths and were ultimately killed by the devils. The devils also ate their corpses on the spot. At this time, Jing Yannan suddenly said. Yi Shiwen suddenly realized that Jing Yannan's words implied that they were going to stand on the same front as Yi Shiwen and won't expose him. After all, they personally witnessed his rage and decisive killing and were also afraid that Yi Shiwen would suddenly launch an attack on them. Moreover, they had a deeper friendship with Hua Menghan. In addition to Hu Yanghang, they also found the members of Luo clan very arrogant and annoying because they had tried to assassinate Hua Menghan, so they were secretly satisfied from the deaths of Luo Fangyi and her team. Judging from all this, it was obvious that they would certainly not risk their lives for the sake of the deaths of their enemies. Indeed, such a pity. Those devils are too cruel and flagitious. Everyone suddenly showed their acknowledgement and supported the statement made by Jing Yannan, showing that they were also on Yi Zaiwen's side. Hua Menghan also nodded to show her consent, waved her palm, and a flame-like Zhen Yuan flew towards the 4 corpses and began to burn them, and in a while, the corpses completely burnt up without a trace left. Fellow senior brothers and sisters, I will not forget about the help I received today and certainly return the favor someday. If there is anything you need in the future, do not shirk to tell me about it. Chapter 151, Target, Truth Level Devil Commander. Half a month's time passed quietly. During this period of half a month, the entire Masha territory was in turmoil because the daughter of Luo clan, Luo Fangyi, had gone missing, and this news caused a stir in Masha territory. After Luo Yifan, Luo Fangyi was the outstanding talented master who was most likely going to be the next truth level master of the Luo clan, but now, she completely disappeared and not even her corpse could be found anywhere. This caused Luo clan to get suddenly furious, especially Luo Yifan, because he was in the Masha territory when she disappeared, and this was the reason behind his violent anger. He was frantically searching for the whereabouts of Yi Shiwen because he had a hunch that this was the doing of Yi Shiwen. Although the news widely spread that Luo Fangyi was killed by devils, but he did not believe it. She must have been killed by that Yi Shiwen. Because Luo Fangyi had informed him that she was going to intercept Yi Shiwen along with her 2 partners, but after that, he did not receive any messages from her or her partners. And this thing had made Luo Yifan extremely furious, and he was searching Yi Shiwen in all directions in order to cut him into 10,000 pieces, but this search was not on a grand scale because it could be said that he still was not completely suspecting Yi Shiwen. Did that mean that at the time when they intercepted Yi Shiwen, they were killed by him instead? What to say? First, since Yi Shiwen was actually the chief of Inner Seed disciples, and he also broke several old records of Yi Yuan school after so many years, and not just that, many people treated him as the next chief fiefan of Yi Yuan school, and his extraordinary talent had also attracted the attention of a lot of old officials of sect. However, if he was secretly taken care of by Luo clan and so long as no one else got to know about this, those old guys would obviously get very furious at the death of a peerless genius like Yi Shiwen, but they won't step up to do something about it. After all, who would try to fight for the sake of a deceased man? But if disclosed publicly, then perhaps, the anger of those old guys might lead to downfall of Luo clan. Although Luo clan was considered a big influence, but not big enough to hoodwink the public in a grand way, after all, even the mighty Luo clan had a lot of enemies. This was an unsaid custom followed in Yi Yuan school, and if people wanted to kill someone, they must do it secretly, otherwise it would create a great disturbance and utter confusion in Yi Yuan school. Second, not to mention, if 3 seed-level core disciples were really killed by Yi Shiwen, then it would cause a huge uproar, but there was no evidence. Moreover, Yi Shiwen was the chief of Inner Seed disciples and many old fogies favored him a lot. If he had really killed one of the top core disciples of Yi Yuan school, then his strength was definitely comparable to the strength of masters of half-step truth realm, and this news would cause a sensation throughout Yi Yuan school. Even many formidable masters who were still in closed-door training in the depths of space and time would be alerted to come out. After all, Yi Shiwen was just a kid who joined the main sect not even a year ago. So how could he become so formidable so fast? Perhaps when the time was right, the respectable seniors would come out from the depths of space and time, where these old fogies had been cultivating in seclusion, and they would take Yi Shiwen with them to the depths of space and time, and there, they would train him and also give him rich sect resources to help him grow faster. Compared to such a genius, Luo Fangyi's death simply did not mean anything to these old fogies, let alone it was Luo Fangyi who intercepted Yi Shiwen, so she got what she deserved. Yi Shiwen was such an evildoer that appeared once in a very long time in the world of martial arts, and such an evildoer was given the opportunity to obtain training and a large number of resources, then in the future, no one would be able to imagine his strength, which would simply be against the heavens' will. So in this case, it was not easy to kill Yi Shiwen without disturbing others. In this short time of less than a month, several groups of core seed disciples and inner seed disciples, who were searching for Yi Shiwen, also disappeared without a trace, just like Luo Fangyi. Luo Yifan knew very well that it must be the doing of Yi Shiwen, but it was useless to suspect without the evidence, but loss of dearly ones had caused Luo clan to feel bad for quite a while, though these seed disciples were not in the truth realm, but it had not been easy to cultivate them. Training worth of decades was needed to achieve the strength equivalent to the level of seed core disciples, and a lot of resources were also spent for their fast growth. If they were just ordinary masters of Xiantian 9th stage, then it was not a big to lose them, but they were the elites, who had learned most superior martial arts power techniques and had also consumed finest and rare material treasures, so their martial arts was far better than their peers. It could be said that Luo clan had made a huge investment in them, and all of them held the highest possibility to qualify for the truth realm in the future, but it was all gone, all of them disappeared, i.e., in this session of seed disciple competition, Luo clan faced quite a heavy loss. Luo Yifan was not furious without a reason. Luo Yifan searched the outlying areas of Masha territory but could not find Yi Shiwen, as if Yi Shiwen was also dead, but he actually knew that Yi Shiwen was not dead, he was absolutely not dead. Luo Yifan's intuition was telling him that Yi Shiwen was still alive. But he did not dare to go too deep inside the Masha territory, because in the depths of Masha territory, there was a huge country of devils, and among them, devil monarchs were very formidable, and there were many truth-level devils. It was said that only truth-level formidable individuals, who were almost near the level of Qi Fifan, dared to venture into the depths of Masha territory, others did not dare to go too far and only roamed in the periphery. Luo Yifan had no idea that he would end up searching for Yi Shiwen for so long in the outskirts of Masha territory, but Yi Shiwen was actually in the depths of Masha territory, a place which was considered extremely dangerous due to it being the den of a large of formidable devils. But as far as Yi Shiwen was considered, that was not the case, because he was the master of Tianyuan Mirror, and unless he encountered a truth-level devil, other devils were not his opponents and were simply cut like vegetables by Yi Shiwen whenever they encountered him. Since the day Yi Shiwen killed Luo Fangyi, he had been honing his skills in the depths of Masha territory, partly to escape from the search of Luo Yifan. He knew that this was the place where Luo Yifan would definitely be afraid to come, and only extraordinary and rampant masters like Qi Fifan would dare to come here, or someone who held a major secret like Yi Shiwen. On the other hand, it was also because those devils in the periphery of Masha territory were not enough for him, because the essence absorbed by beheading those devils was no longer enough for Yi Shiwen and basically was not helping at all in enhancing his cultivation level. Even if he was absorbing the essence present in the bodies of the devils of half-step truth level, the effect was not very big. Now the time to exit the Masha territory was soon going to arrive, and since Luo Yifan was unable to find him during this time, he would definitely wait for Yi Shiwen outside in order to intercept him. Yi Shiwen clearly knew about this, so he was temporarily risking his life to ensure his future safety. Now your cultivation is at the peak of Xiantian's 7th stage and your fighting strength is comparable to the masters of half-step truth realm, but even if you once again have a breakthrough to the Xiantian 8th stage, your fighting strength will still be comparable to the top masters of half-step truth realm. Yi Mo said, after all, you have not properly broken through to the truth realm and you cannot imagine the huge gap between the truth realm and half-step truth realm. Only if you manage to reach the Xiantian 9th stage, at that time, your fighting strength will finally be comparable to that of a true master, and then, you will have enough strength to protect yourself. I know. Yi Shiwen said, at present, it is possible only if I absorb a large number of top-grade spirit stones, otherwise relying on my own accumulation of Lingqi, it will take too long to cross this ridge, probably 8 or 10 years, or even more. It is said that you won't gain anything until you venture into the tiger's den. I just need to directly behead a truth-level devil and absorb his essence, and then in a short time, I will definitely make a breakthrough to the Xiantian 9th stage. Yi Shiwen narrowed his eyes and an inexplicable light flashed in his eyes. It was simply unthinkable for Yi Shiwen to take on a human truth-level master, although he himself was among the top masters of half-step truth realm, and it could be said that none of the masters of half-step truth level were his opponents, but if he encountered a truth-level master then he won't stand a chance. This was why he had been hiding from Luo Yifan, and now that the exit time was going to arrive soon, it was obvious that Luo Yifan must be extremely mad that Yi Shiwen killed several of his core-level seed disciples, and this time, he might not spare Yi Shiwen in front of the large crowd like he did last time, and might actually kill him on the spot. And if Yi Shiwen did not go out, then it would undoubtedly anger Luo clan and they would vent their anger on Qian Yu faction or Yi family. So, the only option left for Yi Shiwen was to risk his life and enhance his strength as soon as possible. At his current strength, Yi Shiwen did not stand a chance against a human master of Truth Realm, but as far as Truth-level devils were concerned, Yi Shiwen believed that as long as there was the suppression of Tianyuan Mirror, there was some possibility that he might stand a chance against a Truth-level devil. Yi Shiwen had been observing from above a mountain peak for a long time, and some time later, he saw a grandiose caravan at a far distance, coming out of a devil city and consisted of many devil guards, and in the center, there was a truth-level devil. Earlier, Yi Shiwen had impersonated as a devil and entered the city to inquire and had found out about this truth-level devil called Jufeng Feudal Lord. He recently entered the Truth Realm and the Demon Emperor of Devil Country bestowed upon him the title of the Feudal Lord of Jufeng City and the neighboring areas. These days, almost every day, he would come out of the city with his caravan to patrol his own territory, and each time, he would be accompanied by a large retinue, with many devil subordinates and slaves. Yi Shiwen looked coldly at the Jufeng Feudal Lord because the only guy he needed to worry about was this Jufeng Feudal Lord. He could easily handle the rest of the devils in the caravan by using the suppression of Tianyuan Mirror, because under the suppression, they would not be able to use even half their strengths. Although there were a lot of devils, but even their combined strength was not enough to stop him. His main target was the Jufeng Feudal Lord because he would be the most difficult one to deal with. Because Jufeng Feudal Lord had recently stepped into the Truth Realm, his breath was still somewhat unstable, and his aura was openly overflowing, and looking from afar, his machi could be seen soaring in the sky, which was quite a frightening sight. Yi Shiwen did not have another choice. Those old devils who had stepped into the Truth Realm a long time ago were very terrifying existences, so relatively speaking, Jufeng City's Feudal Lord was the easiest target at Yi Ziwen's current strength. But at the same time, he was aware of the fact that he was getting this opportunity for only one time because if he failed this time, Jufeng Feudal Lord would certainly be vigilant in his future patrols, and the next time, it won't be easy to kill him. Jufeng Feudal Lord would most probably come out of the city, accompanied by a lot of devil guards, and in addition to his own incredible truth-level strength, even by relying on the suppression of Tianyuan Mirror, Yi Shiwen would have no chance of succeeding. Let's go. Yi Shiwen shouted, and while leaving deep footprints on the ground, his body shot forward, as if an arrow just left the bow and rushed straight toward the caravan of Jufeng Feudal Lord. Dash! Chapter 152, Bitter's Struggle. The loud shout of Yi Shiwen immediately attracted the attention of many devil guards and caused commotion and disturbance among them. They pulled out their weapons and looked coldly at Yi Shiwen. Judging from his battle cry, it was certain that he was not a friend and must be stopped. Suddenly, they smelled Yi Ziwen's breath and realized that he smelled like a human being, and their complexions immediately changed. Human, it was actually a human. In Masha territory, the enmity between the human race and devil race was even greater and deadlier. They hated each other and were sworn enemies, and so long as a human appeared in their territory, then he would certainly be killed. Human warriors used them as objects to gain experience, and this had developed a burning anger in the hearts of these devils. Subject him to death. A Xiantian 9th stage devil master took out his long blade and shot a myriad of blade light, and it seemed as if they were cutting through a section of the world itself. Yi Shiwen immediately waved his long blade, and it seemed as if a galaxy itself started to fall from the 9th heaven, like a swaying slice of magnificence, and instantly crushed the myriad of blade light, and after that, it rushed towards that master. Dang! A loud metal clashing sound spread, and Yi Ziwen's blade light clashed with the long blade of that master and instantly shattered it into pieces and crumbled down on the ground. Yi Ziwen's blade light went unobstructed like the lightning itself, and it was too late for that devil master to dodge and was cleft in two while screaming pitifully. The other devil masters simply did not care even if one of their own was beheaded by Yi Shiwen, but there was not even the slightest change in their attitude. It could be said that these devils had crawled out of the sea of blood, had lived a long life through bloody battles and were extremely cold-blooded. In addition to that, they were all extremely cruel existences, and at this moment, they only cared about their one and only target, Yi Shiwen. Clang! 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 Dozens of the devil warriors suddenly released their attacks and numerous blade lights filled the entire sky, while each blade light was so terrifying that it was sending shock waves in the air. Innumerable blade shadows directly shook the entire sky and filled the entire atmosphere with machi. There was a deadpan look on the face of Yi Shiwen as he was using Celestial Step. His pace did not stagnate even the slightest as he directly dashed wildly towards the Jufeng feudal lord, and his blade issued a bright blade light in the sky that directly rumbled against those devil masters and sent them flying in all directions. Dang! 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 The terrifying strength of Yi Shiwen severely hit those devil masters, who did not stand a chance in front of him, and his blade light almost instantly wiped out several devil masters, and the weaker ones were instantly chopped down into pieces. Yi Shiwen did not stop and continued to release formidable blade lights, ruthlessly, and one after another. Poof! Yi Zaiwen's blade light pierced the chest of a devil master that minced his internal organs and killed him in an instant. Yi Shiwen waved his long blade and released a terrifying bladiki which went flying and advanced unhindered towards the devils. Bang! The body of a devil master was sliced at his waist and 2 sections of his body flew upside down. Yi Shiwen continued to rush straight through the group of devil guards as if he was taking a stroll. Others devil guards saw their companions getting chopped down and dying, but they were not the slightest afraid and rushed towards Yi Shiwen. These were experienced devil guards and all of them had gone through very rigorous training and were only loyal to Jufeng feudal lord. The cunningness and cruelty of these devils was completely on a different level. Bang! But it was obvious, when these devil experts rushed towards Yi Shiwen, they were chopped down by his blade, their bodies instantly burst, their heads cracked open, rest were split in half. Yi Shiwen seemed to be leisurely and easily making his way towards Jufeng feudal lord while killing all of the devil guards who were trying to get in his way. He advanced quickly while sending those devils flying and splattering blood all the way. Jufeng feudal lord was different and much stronger than these devil guards, but each of them had followed him for a long time and helped him in his conquest to become a direct descendant and gain his current status. They were extremely loyal to the Jufeng feudal lord, and one could say that the masters of the same level of Yi Yuan school were not necessarily the opponents of these devil guards. These devil guards were just like killing machines that had crawled out from a battle scene, ruthless, and were not afraid to die. But they were being chopped down like vegetables by Yi Shiwen without getting a chance to even react, and it seemed like he was just taking a stroll. Damn human, you actually dare to appear in front of us, you are really courting death. A devil master of half-step truth realm said in a loud voice and rushed towards Yi Shiwen. He was the captain of the devil guards. From a distant place, Jufeng feudal lord was looking coldly at the rushing figure of Yi Shiwen. He was looking down on Yi Shiwen, who was not even the master of truth realm, and he was simply not paying attention to Yi Shiwen, as if he was looking in the direction of Yi Shiwen but did not bother to pay attention to an ant-like existence. The half-step truth-level devil captain threw an extremely formidable Quan Jin, which twisted up, forming a tornado, then swept towards Yi Shiwen, swallowing everything on the way. Yi Zaiwen's long blade chopped out a dazzling move, but very gently, and in a flash, 100 feet long blade light instantly congealed and rushed maliciously. The half-step truth-level devil captain did not expect Yi Shiwen to be so formidable. After all, Yi Shiwen was also at the same level as him, and devils were supposed to be inherently superior warriors compared to the humans at the same level. Then how could Yi Shiwen, a human master at half-step truth realm, be more formidable than him? He immediately threw his fist in order to release Quan Jin but did not get a chance to react, and before he could realize what happened, his arm was suddenly cut off by Yi Shiwen on the spot. Yi Shiwen clearly had the upper hand, and his long blade instantly chopped out a second time and used Missing Moon Beheader at the devil captain, without pausing even for an instant. Puchi! The half-step truth-level devil captain was directly split into two halves by Yishuan. Human, you are quite courageous to actually dare and attack the caravan of this Jufeng feudal lord. At this time, Jufeng feudal lord finally moved. Human, today, you must die. I will use your human blood to wash away the shame that human beings have imposed on devil race. Cut the crap, Jufeng feudal lord, today, it's you who is going to die. Yishuan was not in a mood to talk nonsense with Jufeng feudal lord. During these days that he had spent in investigating about him, he had also discovered that this Jufeng feudal lord and other devil feudal lords were all incomparably cruel and brutal. The devils around Jufeng feudal lord immediately made way for him and did not dare to approach him. The strength levels of these two masters simply could not be compared, and perhaps, if it was someone else challenging Jufeng feudal lord, then it would be a dead end for them. Human, die. Jufeng lord bellowed and blasted his fist. Layers after layer of machi swept out, and from the void, black blossoming lotuses suddenly congealed and dropped from the sky. Each of these black lotuses contained terrifying strength, and with just a single touch, masters of Xiantian 9th stage would directly get killed without leaving any room to escape. But at this time, the Tianyuan mirror, hidden in Yi Zaiwen's body, finally assumed an awe-inspiring stance and released a horrifying emperor-like coercion which instantly and firmly suppressed the strength of Jufeng feudal lord, making him to have an aggrieved feeling in his heart while horrifying waves of coercion were pressuring him. However, the black lotuses started to fall towards Yishuan at terrifying speeds. Yishuan suddenly chopped out his long blade and a fearful majestic diagram of moon congealed in the sky and went towards the falling black lotuses and swept them away. Boom! 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 Yi Zaiwen's blade attack swept away most of the black lotuses and they started to explode one by one. Die you ain't like human. An inexplicable coercion was tightly holding him down, causing him to have a feeling of surrendering, and this feeling had penetrated deep into his heart, which soon made him to get depressed and extremely mad, and he suddenly attacked once again. Boom! 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 The black lotuses strangely disappeared and suddenly reappeared behind Yishuan and exploded. Poof! Yishuan spouted blood from his mouth and his full body armor instantly disintegrated, while blood started dripping from his back, covering the entire back portion of his body in blood. It was indeed true that truth-level masters were incomparably terrifying. Although most of his strength was being suppressed by Tianyuan mirror, but he still had enough strength to fatally wound Yishuan. If Jufeng feudal lord was using his full strength, then, the earlier attack was sufficient enough to violently kill Yishuan. However, there wasn't the slightest fear on the face of Yishuan. On the contrary, at present, the look on his face made him look like a battle maniac, who was enjoying the battle very much. His opponent was a disciplined commander and a formidable opponent, but he still must beat this opponent at any cost. Damn human, I will crush you. Lord Jufeng roared fiercely and blasted his fist maliciously towards Yishuan. Boom! The fist swept out a fist wind which took form a very scary black tornado, and it seemed as if it was cutting off and twisting the space itself and swallowed everything on its way. As the fist blast arrived, it seemed as if the time itself stagnated, and in this moment, only the glory of this fist attack was visible to all. An invisible pressure instantly attacked the heart of Yishuan. Yishuan, watch out! Yi Mo shouted. This truth-level devil lord's strength was terrifying and far beyond his imagination. The brilliant Quan Jin seemed to enlarge infinitely, as if it was going to expand right across the sky, and fiercely exploded. Most people could not see, even Yishuan could faintly see the trajectory of this terrifying and incredibly fast Quan Jin and instantly chopped out his long blade, releasing gorgeous rays of light, that ultimately transformed into a supreme blade and shot up in the sky towards that terrifying Quan Jin. At this time, from the look on Yi Zaiwen's face, it seemed as if he was drowning in water, and tightly clenching his teeth, to fight against the horrifying pressure. Boom! Quan Yin and blade lights suddenly collided with each other, and this collision was so dazzling that it was hard to open one's eyes, so formidable that it almost crushed the space, and seemed to spread chaos, just like the scene of grand explosion during the Big Bang, and layer after layer of huge shock waves spread in all directions. The brilliant Quan Yin of the Jufeng feudal lord was incomparably powerful, and he had to use Jin Yuan behind his back to support himself in front of such a powerful attack, while the Quan Yin quickly engulfed his blade light, and this time, the gap between the strengths of the two masters clearly reflected itself and was incisive and vivid. Boom! The incomparably horrifying Quan Yin instantly blasted into the body of Yi Shiwen, and he spat a mouthful of blood. The horrifying Quan Yin thundered on the body of Yi Shiwen, while at the same time, the impact caused the tyrant body technique to suddenly enhance to the acme level, and just like the fierce collision of two weapons, in that instant, a deafening loud sound resounded. The Quan Yin finally dispersed, and the entire chest of Yi Shiwen was covered in blood due to it. If his body wasn't abnormally strong, then like ordinary people, he would have been turned into minced meat by the terrifying blast of that Quan Yin. Chapter 153, comparable to Truth Realm. Yi Zaiwen's body was almost beaten to disintegration because the attack of this truth-level master was too terrifying, but it was only this once, as the Jufeng feudal lord was once again completely suppressed by the Tianyuan mirror, and as long as the mirror's coercion was acting on him, he won't be able to issue such a terrifying attack again. But Jufeng Lord did not give Yi Shiwen much time to rest, and again threw a fierce Quan Yin that went across the sky towards Yi Shiwen and rumbled maliciously. Yi Zaiwen's immortal-like stature swept out in the air, his blade's intention shot up towards the sky and transformed into a very lifelike and vivid coiling dragon made up of blade intention, and it seemed that it would destroy everything that would come in its way. The huge coiling dragon made up of blade intention soared high into the sky, and it seemed as if it would destroy the heaven itself. The long blade danced in his hands and released Jin Yuan, which then suddenly soared several folds into the sky and firmly advanced towards the Jufeng feudal lord. The Quan Yin of Jufeng feudal lord congealed out of void and transformed into an invincible war devil and rushed towards Yi Shiwen. Yi Shiwen immediately transformed the blade intention into multiple vivid diagrams. Each of these diagrams were capable of suppressing the entire world and crushing everything. The invincible war devil was directly crushed and obliterated by the vivid diagram of Yi Zaiwen's blade intention. But in the meantime, without the slightest stagnation, Yi Shiwen immediately extended his hand, which then changed into a dragon claw, displaying the might of coiling dragon palm. Hidden dragon rises from the abyss. And the coiling dragon immediately advanced towards Jufeng feudal lord to grab him. Boom! Yi Zaiwen's dragon claw directly bombarded on the body of Jufeng feudal lord, who could not react and still did not know that this attack actually shattered most of his ribs, and at this time, the Quan Yin of Jufeng feudal lord rumbled on the body of Yi Shiwen and directly shattered quite a few of his breastbones. Both of them immediately spat out a mouthful of blood and their bodies flew upside down, and were also shocked by fierceness of each other's attacks, while the intention to kill suddenly intensified in their eyes. Yi Shiwen must kill him to gain the strength equivalent to the masters of the Truth Realm, and Jufeng feudal lord couldn't allow this insolent lowly human to escape. This was an old hatred, an impassable animosity. Boom! 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 Both of them were trying their utmost in the battle. Each move would cause fierce air explosions and collapse the atmosphere. None of them were holding back even the slightest and were constantly using cutthroat attacks on each other. Tianyuan mirror had produced a square-shaped curtain made up of scarlet light, and it was hanging above his head, and the spirit stones began to burn inside the storage ring of Yi Shiwen, constantly emitting huge amount of lingqi to consolidate Tianyuan mirror. Damn human! Jufeng feudal lord roared. He never thought that he would actually be seriously wounded by a lowly human, a human who had not even stepped into the truth realm. He was so seriously wounded that blood was constantly spilling out from the corners of his mouth, and he still was not aware that some of the broken ribs had pierced his internal organs, resulting in constant blood loss. The degree of Yi Zaiwen's aggressiveness had gone far beyond the imagination of Jufeng feudal lord, because he never thought that Yi Shiwen would actually be able to injure him. He was merely a human who had not even stepped into the truth realm, and who would have thought that a lowly ant-like human would actually injure him to such an extent. After entering the truth realm, this was the first time he had to face the bitter feeling of sustaining injuries. Yishuan did not expect that this truth-level devil would actually be so terrifying and it would be so hard to deal with him. This battle had gone far beyond his imagination, but at this moment, there was an even more excited expression on his face, because he knew full well that if he could beat such a strong opponent then he himself would become much stronger than ever before. With an ice-cold expression on his face, Yishuan shouted, "Die!" Yishuan started to release blade intentions one after another and a group of blade intentions blotted out the entire sky and pressed down. This was a competition between creative concepts and this was also a competition to see which one of them would be able to resist and which one would go down. Jufeng Feudal Lord bellowed, the machi in his body quickly condensed into an ancient war devil, and right now, it was in a defensive posture. His injuries were more severe compared to that of Yishuan, and under the constant great suppression of Yimo's Tianyuan mirror, he almost could not control himself because of the thought that had suddenly sprouted in his heart and was forcing him to prostrate in front of Yishuan. This was a terrifying thought, making him want to snarl in desperation. He absolutely could not kneel down in front of a lowly human. Boom! A terrifying blade intention was fiercely chopped out towards the war devil of Jufeng Feudal Lord. The blade intention transformed into a moon-like cold and sharp bladiki and instantly split that war devil into two halves, and after that, it collided into the body of Jufeng Feudal Lord. Poof! Jufeng Feudal Lord was blasted away and his body directly crashed on the ground and he spurted out a mouthful of blood. Yishuan shot his palm congealing a long shadow of a coiling dragon. It thundered and released sound waves which transformed into 4 sonic arrows and shot forward. Divine Dragon flings its tail. Bang! The dragon's tail swept towards Jufeng Feudal Lord and he was immediately sent flying. The coiling dragon's large tail had swept, moreover it was an all-out sweep so the consequences could naturally be imagined. The barrier of energy protecting the body of Jufeng Feudal Lord instantly exploded under the terrifying strength of coiling dragon's attack and there simply was no way left for the Jufeng Feudal Lord to protect himself. Kala! There was no suspense, Jufeng Feudal Lord was swept away, all of the bones in his body completely shattered and turned into powder while one could still hear the dragon howl. This end was incomparably terrifying. Damn it! Jufeng Feudal Lord roared loudly, he just could not accept that such a fate would befall him, that he would be defeated like this by Yishuan. Bang! Yishuan used his foot to heavily stamp on the sternum of Jufeng Feudal Lord and after directly smashing it, his foot immediately penetrated into the ground. The heart of Jufeng Feudal Lord was instantly crushed, and without the heart, he struggled a bit then finally died. Tianyuan mirror emitted scarlet light which completely enveloped the Jufeng Feudal Lord and his Jingqi was instantly absorbed by Tianyuan mirror, then after refining it and removing the impurities, the refined essence was instilled into the body of Yishuan. Right after this, the imposing aura of Yishuan started to increase gradually. Attack him, kill that damn human and take revenge for the feudal lord. After witnessing the death of the Jufeng Feudal Lord, some of the devils who were part of the caravan of the Jufeng Feudal Lord immediately left the formation and ran away. Not much time had passed since the Jufeng Feudal Lord had assumed the post of the Feudal Lord of Jufeng City, so how could they possibly have any sense of belonging for him? However, there were some of the original followers of the Jufeng Feudal Lord who had fought alongside him during the Jufeng Civil War and were very loyal to him. At this time, all of them rushed towards Yishuan. Yishuan coldly snorted and a long dragon soared into the sky and coiled around Yishuan. The devils who had just now approached near him were directly torn to pieces by the long dragon and could not approach him. The overwhelming dragon chi of this long dragon was itself the nemesis of these devils, and coupled with the strength of Yishuan, these devils simply didn't stand a chance. In addition to this, at this time, the Tianyuan mirror had assumed an awe-inspiring stance above the head of Yishuan, and with its support, he was already able to deal with a truth-level master like Jufeng Feudal Lord who had only been suppressed to a certain extent under the influence of Tianyuan mirror, but the strength levels of these devils was below the truth realm. Most of them were the devils of Xiantian 8th stage or 9th stage and it was easy to completely suppress them. These devils could not withstand the horrifying coercion of the Tianyuan mirror that appeared all of a sudden, and they immediately knelt down on the ground, trembling, and a thought appeared in their hearts making them feel as if they were present in front of their master, and Yishuan appeared as a godlike presence to them. The long dragon killed all them while none of them dared to resist, and eventually, the life essences of these devils were also absorbed by Yishuan's body, although the effect was small, but it was still better than nothing. Yi Zaiwen's imposing aura finally started to increase successively. Boom! Yishuan finally had a breakthrough and stepped into the Xiantian 8th stage. His imposing aura increased by a section but did not transform completely, though at this moment, he had become stronger than a master of half-step truth realm and his strength became even more unfathomable. Yi Zaiwen's body was crazily absorbing the life essence of Jufeng Feudal Lord, which was completely different from the life essence of a master at the half-step truth realm. It was said that stepping into the truth realm was actually the second major transformation after the first major transformation during the breakthrough from Hotian realm to Xiantian realm, and it also brought forth bigger changes compared to the breakthrough from the Hotian realm. After stepping into the Xiantian realm, the lifespan increased from 100 years to 200 years, and again after breaking from Xiantian realm to truth realm, the lifespan increased from 200 years to 500 years, which was almost more than double. The life essence also had a complete change after stepping into the truth realm compared to how it was in the Xiantian realm. For stepping into the Xiantian realm from the Hotian realm, pure exercise of mortal body was required and one needed to open up the world bridge. However, after stepping into the truth realm, one started understanding some of the laws of the world and also used them. For example, the flight itself violates the laws of the world, because according to the world's law, flight is impossible without the wings. But after comprehending some of the rules, one could override these limitations, and not just flight. There were many examples like breathing underwater, walking in the fire, things that were not possible for a human being to achieve with his own ability, but a truth-level master could do all these impossible things. This was the beginning of the transformation of the body from an embryo into the legendary immortal god. Although this Jufeng Feudal Lord was a devil, but in this regard, things were exactly the same for both devils and humans irrespective of their races. The life essence of Xiantian level devils and truth level devils were very different, and the moment Yishuan absorbed the refined life essence of Jufeng Feudal Lord, his cultivation instantly began to rise gradually. Meanwhile, Yishuan also found out that when he came into contact with the life essence of a truth-level master, he also came into contact with the laws of this world, and the space in his mind also began to change. Originally, it was only for martial arts and could comprehend unceasingly, and the results of those comprehensions appeared in front of Yishuan, making it easy for him to understand. In other words, originally, the space worked in a way that a school student could understand the language used to explain the contents in a university, which in itself was a miracle, an incredible myth. If not relying on this mysterious space, Yishuan would not have been able to achieve his current strength in almost a year's time, and considering the progress he had shown during this 1 year, others would have achieved the same progress in several decades or even a century. Now that Yishuan had finally come in contact with the laws of the world, the mysterious space actually began to analyze all sorts of mysteries of world laws and revealing them in front of him, who was initially unable to understand even the basic laws, but now, he discovered that as long as he continued to inject Lingqi into the mysterious space, his understanding of the laws of the world would continue to improve. This was the reason why Yishuan was confident that even when he was at the Xiantian 9th stage, he should be able to contend with a master at the first stage of Truth Realm, because these first stage true masters had only comprehended some of the basic world laws. But at present, Yishuan could draw support from the mysterious space, making him able to grasp these laws faster. Xiantian 8th Intermediate. Xiantian 8th Late. Xiantian 8th Peak. Boom! The imposing aura of Yishuan suddenly reached a terrifying level, and even the clouds in the sky started twisting into a group along with his breakthrough. Xiantian 9th Stage. The fighting strength of Yishuan rose dramatically and became comparable to the masters of Truth Realm, then stopped. Yishuan opened his eyes that flashed with vitality, and along with that, an explosion occurred in the atmosphere. Chapter 154, Trial ends. Although it was very difficult to control one's own state and restrain one's breath just after having the breakthrough, for example that Jufeng feudal lord who had recently broken through and entered into the truth realm but could not hide his breath, but Yi Shiwen was different. He had already reached a terrifyingly high level of restraining breath technique, and now, even if a master of truth realm was in front of him, they would find it difficult to discover Yi Ziwen's presence. He instantly restrained his breath. At this time, there was no presence of devils within a radius of 100 miles, and Yi Shiwen had already killed Jufeng feudal lords, so how could they dare to stay there? So while Yi Shiwen was having a breakthrough, they quickly escaped. At this time, Yi Shiwen felt several godly sweeps which swept over the entire area and all belonged to the truth level masters, though there were merely 10 of them in the nearby areas who had used their godly sweep. It seemed like at the time when Yi Shiwen was having a breakthrough, the color of world had deteriorated, and this had attracted the attention of many truth level masters in the neighborhood. It is not safe to stay here for a long time. You should better leave this place a bit faster. Yi Mo said. There may be some truth-level powerful devils heading this way. Yi Shiwen nodded and said, now it's about time for the trial to end, we must go out. Yi Shiwen said, and a rainbow suddenly appeared underfoot and his entire figure vanished in the emptiness, dashing forward like a human god. It seemed like a month's time had passed in an instant, and it was time to open the door connecting Yiyuan School to Masha territory, although the loss of personnel was not small, but this loss would soon be supplemented from the outside. A team of 100 people was simply not a problem as long as there were few people who could progress by leaps and bounds and get stronger than everyone. This was the fundamental notion in Yiyuan School, that a strong individual was worth 1,000 mediocre. Yiyuan School was one of great forces of the Great Yu State, but what was the actual reason behind its influence? It was not due to the hundreds of thousands of disciples, not due to the hundreds of true disciples, but was actually due to the 100 or so legendary level masters who held the most influence and held status right after the leaders of 10 Peaks, the head, and the Taishang elder. This was the foundation of Yiyuan School and truly guaranteed its safety, so it trained disciples with the consistent standards of picking out the elites, more talented, more cultured elites, who could get enormous benefits for the sect. Although cruel, but it was a fundamental conduct in Yiyuan School. Not only Yiyuan School, other major sects were also like this. This was a convention and was true at any place. The seed disciples were no doubt the most outstanding ones. I heard that there is an extraordinary character among this year's inner disciples. A core seed disciple said and looked towards a distant place where inner seed disciples were present. The team of core seed disciples seemed to have shrunk by almost 1/3, and in comparison to them, the number of inner seed disciple was not much less. This was because they knew that their own strength was limited, so they did not go too deep inside the Masha territory. Basically they just roamed in the peripheral areas, and therefore, the casualties were minimized. This was the so-called trying to drink while pecking, and because of this, Yiyuan School put these disciples in this place. They just wanted these core disciples to go through the worst to gain experience and enhance their strengths. Only the truth level disciples had the ability to survive in this place. The sect knew that the disciples would not go too deep, and if they didn't, then they would not be able to have a major change in their destiny. If its disciples did not persevere, then the whole generation would be just a group of idiots, and even if they were to die, there would be nothing to pity. Such type of people who were not prepared to take risks could not see the future clearly and were doomed to lack future prospects. A character like Qi Fifan, are you perhaps talking about that Yi Shiwen? A nearby disciple replied. Several disciples on the surrounding gave a clear understanding look as if they knew that it could only be Yi Shiwen. I heard that even Luo Fangyi, Xia Yi et al. Also died at his hands. A disciple exclaimed. Really? No wonder, some time ago, the people of Luo clan were wildly looking for him in the entire Masha territory. Another disciple joined the discussion and said. Is that so? No wonder, otherwise why do you think that Luo clan would be so angry all of a sudden? They had put every effort in training Luo Fangyi, and she was going to be the next person to enter the truth realm after Luo Yifan and could become a great truth level master. It could be said that the current generation of Luo clan was going to be headed by these two in the near future. I never thought that she would actually die here. The disciples explained. Earlier, I heard that Yi Shiwen was also involved in the death of Luo Tian, so he was running away from Luo clan, but no one thought that he would actually kill the members of Luo clan instead. A disciple said in such a way as if he had actually witnessed this with his own eyes. Luo clan wants to conceal the news, but they cannot stop others from knowing. Almost everyone knows about this matter. This is fun, but I'm afraid that Yi Shiwen is not fully aware of Luo clan's influence, otherwise he would not have done things to send Luo clan into rage. I think he is well aware of that because I heard that the team that Luo clan sent later to find Yi Shiwen has also disappeared without a trace. I doubt that they have fallen in the hands of Yi Shiwen. It can be said that Luo clan has faced a huge loss, and although it cannot be said that they have been beaten, but they have been hurt pretty bad, that's for sure. But since there is no evidence, this time, Luo clan must be having a feeling that their teeth have been knocked out. Another disciple said. Do you think that Luo clan is at disadvantage? Yes, they don't have evidence, but if there was evidence then Yi Shiwen's family would have been eradicated by now. That's the code of conduct of Luo clan. It's enough for them to kill someone just based on suspicions, because according to their rules, killing a wrong person is fine but not letting go a culprit. Well, let us not discuss about this anymore. You do not know about the overbearing attitude of Luo clan, and now that Yi Shiwen has beheaded so many of their members in such a short time, no matter what happens, it is going to become a big issue sooner or later, so when the time comes, do not get yourselves involved in this. After Hua Menghan heard these words, a somewhat worried look appeared on her face, but at this time, Jing Yannan smiled and said, "It should not be a problem. Brother Yi is very strong, and when the time comes, he will be regarded as a peerless talent, and the sect would come to take him under their care and personally train him. Even the rampant Luo clan would not be able to touch him." Everyone nodded, although some of them had not met him face to face, but they still held good impression about him. Yi Shiwen was critically decisive and made right decisions at the key moment. He was not attracted head over heels towards women, and there was no shred of arrogance in him around friends, and only seemed to show his arrogance to his enemies. Being friends with such a guy should be a good choice. Then suddenly, in the distant horizon, a streamer flashed and a figure descended down from the sky. It was Luo Yifan, but at this time, his complexion was ashen and completely pale. When the disciples in the surrounding area saw him like this, all of them suddenly went silent, because they did not want to incur the wrath of a mad god who seemed to be in such a state that he could kill indiscriminately if annoyed. 1 month, he was looking for a whole month, but still no signs of Yi Shiwen, which was simply unimaginable for him. He had never encountered such a cunning enemy, like a mosquito that bit then flew away then bit again, so annoying but also painful. Moreover, he sent several waves of core seed disciples, but they also completely suffered defeat, and what made him even more depressed was the disappearance of several waves of core seed disciples. Not to mention, he himself went almost everywhere to search for Yi Shiwen but could not find him. He was simply depressed to death. He did not know that he was finding ways to intercept Yi Shiwen, and Yi Shiwen was also asking around to locate his position in order to intercept him. He never thought that Yi Shiwen would actually be so bold that he would dare to kill his henchmen. In short, he was depressed to death and had never encountered such a situation, though it was all coming to an end, because in addition to the core disciples, even the true disciples needed special approval to enter and wander inside Masha territory, and also required some special circumstances or reasons to go inside. This was the only opportunity to catch Yi Shiwen, as he must come out now, because if he didn't then that would be equivalent to violation of the sect rules. Once he would come out, Luo Yifan planned to behead him once and forever, and as far as evidence was concerned, who needed that stuff? At this time, Luo Yifan's brain was completely overwhelmed with anger and was no longer thinking rationally. Luo Yifan arrived in the front of Hua Menghan and said in a cold voice, "Hua Menghan, I'm asking you one last time, do you admit or not that my sister was killed by Yi Shiwen?" Luo Yifan's terrifying imposing aura came out and tightly locked on Hua Menghan. She withstood such a horrifyingly heavy pressure, and her tender body slightly trembling but did not collapse, because she possessed some treasures that could resist against this terrifying imposing aura, and she soon returned to a normal state. Luo Fangyi was killed and eaten by devils. Hua Menghan said in a calm and tranquil voice. Although Luo Yifun's imposing aura was quite terrifying, but it was still just an imposing aura. He could dare to openly search for Yi Shuwen in order to kill him, but he definitely would never dare to hurt her, otherwise even a true disciple like him would not be able to escape death. If devils killed her, then why did not they kill you? Luo Yifun did not believe her words. Luo Fangyi was stronger than Hua Menghan and was strong enough to deal with those devils and could easily kill several of them, but why did she die and Hua Menghan survived? Such a lie could only deceive a child. I don't know about that. Why doesn't brother Luo go and ask those devils? Hua Menghan said in a calm tone. You. Hua Menghan, don't you think that our Luo clan cannot get you? I know that your backing is not small, but you better not mess with us. Luo Yifun gritted his teeth and said. He could not use brute force on her because when she had joined the main sect, he had been warned by his granduncle that he must never provoke Hua Menghan. That idiot Luo Tian didn't know about this and had dared to attack Hua Menghan on his sister's command, but fortunately, he did not succeed, otherwise it would have endangered the safety of entire Luo clan. You're tuning into the Blissful Bookshelf YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.